No, I think that's definitely true. What you said there about there being more Mystic Coins thing is certainly accurate. Like the way they're aiming strike missions is pretty entry level PvE. Certainly a few tiers below challenge modes. Challenge modes, they're not like super hard, particularly with the way the game plays out right now. But most players do not do them, right, and have difficulty completing that content. So strike missions are going to be a lot more accessible, which will certainly inject a lot of Mystic Coins. And this sort of thing is pretty interesting because fractals are weird because you get a lot of liquid gold from them. Like when you open your encryptions, you just get very expensive junk items that you then sell. So you just get gold. And if Mystic Coin prices go down, then in a way, fractals become more valuable, right? And I maybe that's a little 4D chess, but hey, look, if they have someone designing the economy, they have to be a little 4D chess. So in theory, fractals could increase in value because if the prices go down, then you can get more with your fractal loot, right? So if they are able to address the problem of Mystic Coins being incredibly expensive, then in a way, you're to an extent compensated. That's right, gamers. It's now officially tea time. Put away your resident sleepers. You won't need them anymore. You certainly won't need them for this tea time. We have arrived. Okay, that is a new world record for tea time starting soon screens. But let me tell you, it will be worth it because not only do we have some incredible guests here today, we also have some incredible topics today. We have a little bit of a warm-up. We're going to just maybe discuss the Jade Bot a little bit because the Jade Bot, it was a warm-up and a distraction for ArenaNet to come out of nowhere and just set the entire community on fire, burn it to the ground, and then bring strikes like a phoenix from the ashes of fractal challenge modes, right? So we'll be getting to that a little bit later. But before we get into that, okay, allow me to please introduce our fantastic guests for today. That's right. Inks is back. Nike is here as well. And brand new tea time guest. I don't know how you managed to dodge tea time. I don't know. How's that even possible?
Yeah, I'm honestly like just wondering where the tea is. Like, I've just been sitting here for like an hour at this point. Everyone keeps calling it tea time. There is no tea to be found in this podcast.
Yeah, that's because I already drank it. I drank all of it. It's mine.
Very sus.
Yeah, unlucky. Unlucky indeed.
Thanks for having me, though. It's very cool to be here for the first time.
Indeed, for the first time. So, welcome aboard. And we're already late, so without further ado, let's just get into it. A lot of things happened yesterday, pretty much. Big post, big stream about Jade Bots, big post about balance and so on. But let's leap into the Jade Bot here. And the stream in general. We know the full details now. And, even that is a controversial topic. There's too much controversy going on right now. Now, the key things about the Jade Bot that I think is that everyone, including free-to-play players and people who don't have Ender Dragons, get this power core for free, which gives you extra stats. Right now, vitality, but it has been mentioned that it could be other things, right? They can add loads of new modules and features to the bot, like treasure hunting and gliding up in the air, making your skiff go faster, all sorts of fantastic things, auto-salvagey things that will, loot things from enemies there so you get more loot, buffing AFK farming even more. There's a lot of exciting things here to discuss, and we now know how it all works. And I have to say, I was pretty impressed. I was expecting the Jade Bot to be kind of a little bit of a gimmick, right? Oh, yeah. But it's actually probably the most fleshed out mastery, I think. It's got a lot to it, and I think it's going to see a lot of development and action in the future by adding new functionality to it, because it does have that extensibility of having just, you can just pick 2 cores, right, or whatever, and then bam, it does a bunch of different things. But I'm just going to open that up, okay? What do we think? What do we think about the Jade Bot, right? Is hype, not hype, good, bad, terrible? What are we thinking?
It's better than Arborstone mastery from what we've seen. In fact, I'm still kind of in the dark about what the Arborstone mastery exactly is going to have or do or what. I mean, they had an hour-long stream about it, and still a little unsure of why exactly I want it. So, the Jade Bot, I know I want, and I will put the points into unlocking. And also, I want to start by saying we're not late. The stream is 23 hours early. Think about that.
Yeah, it was gonna be on Sunday, totally.
I like that.
No, I honestly think I'm the only person that I've talked to that is actually excited about Arborstone. But I don't know, I'm kind of blown away by the Jade Bots. I thought it was literally gonna be like the Exalted Mastery, like you unlock like some vendors or something. You can use like the Jade waypoints or whatever. But then first they added like all this stuff like, oh, you can glide higher and stuff like that, and there's like this whole system you can like customize it.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm excited for though is that all these like upgrades are going to be craftable and tradable. So there's going to be like a little bit of an economy around that, around like getting the highest vitality boost and all of that. It actually seems like a substantial addition to the game instead of just like some mastery that you forget about like 5 seconds later. So I'm quite liking it so far, and also it's really cute, which is the most important part, to be fair.
That is true.
It's gonna sell a lot of copies, I think.
I'm just looking at inks.
I want skins. I want better skins.
Yeah.
Sell me. Fuck cute. I want one that like looks like a fucking blood-sucking mosquito, which is
a mosquito.
Yeah,
it's kind of dream like skin.
Yeah, a dream skin is like an actual mosquito. It's like, especially like the big blood-filled ones that have been feeding all night.
You know, now we don't want skins. No skins anymore. No, I disagree. No.
And I think it's a good, like, I don't know, it's like a representation of the Guild Wars 2 community as a blood-sucking mosquito.
Wait, what?
Yep.
What?
I don't know. I don't know what that's about, but they did say something. Ben P said something about the way that the effects happen. So I think that the bot is not always active. He's not always out floating around or whatever. So I think that, I mean, they might have skins, like just basic skins. You change it to a lantern, you change it to whatever. But it also might have like scavenging animations like you do with your gathering tools. And I think that could be pretty cool as well. I mean, even if they bundle those two together, that'd be better.
I do not want to see a big bloody mosquito like scavenging a corpse. Like I was in the skins camp, but I wanted like a huge quaggan or something. But you know what? I'm pretty okay not having those skins now.
So the quaggan has to like consume the dead body. When
yeah,
it scavenges
like,
your enemies.
It was like it can like scavenge corpses to find like wood and stuff, and I was just like imagining this like super cute Jade Bot just like going through someone's corpse, and I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
That I'm not sure that's gonna have an animation.
I mean, you gotta cut them open and get the blood vial out or whatever the heck it gives you.
There is one of those, I think, actually. I think it will give you some crafting materials. So it extracts the materials.
Trophy core.
Yeah, trophy core, exactly. Just extracts the grisly trophies from the the body.
I think Ben P also said like the best mods are like the best mod recipes are drops. So that's pretty exciting for those who craft that want to corner that market for at least a little bit while people get acclimated to getting these drops wherever they come from.
Yeah, I think there's, the component for unlocking them, you're actually going to have to go out and fight something for part of it anyway, for part of that acquisition process for the top level, like best cores. There will be gameplay attached to that, in addition to obviously like leveling up your mastery and crafting some stuff too. So it's a very well fleshed out system. It certainly feels like what they're trying to have almost as the equivalent to mounts. Probably not quite as extensive as that, obviously, or as game-changing, perhaps, as mounts. Is more like something that attaches to other features as, it improves them. It makes mounts better. It makes the skiff better, and so on.
Nike wants mosquitoes that suck the blood out of people or whatever. But what I want is one of the rarest recipe mods that come from fishing, but you can only get it at night and only during December or like January or something. Only 1 month out of the year is a drop from random fish. And you'll be forced to fish for like hours on end and get nothing.
And make it zero sum so that like if you get it, that means other players someone else don't get it.
Why would they add that?
It's good. It's good.
Perfect.
It's
Perfect.
Good game design that encourages people to become very toxic.
Like
Yeah.
ArenaNet, I can't play during the night cycle. Well, that's too bad. I guess you just don't get that recipe.
Yeah. Anyway, I do like how the thing that we immediately talk about, I think this is quite telling. The thing we immediately talk about is the only thing they didn't mention, which was customization. They didn't mention that at all. I was really surprised because they said everything else, right? Like all the things it can do, how it works. It was even confirmed that the extra stats you get from the power core itself, you actually get those in fractal strikes and raids, which is quite like it's in line. It is crazy. It's crazy. It's wild.
What's funny about it is they obviously, because of that's why they went with Vitality, because it's like the least offensive stat they could like. Not, I don't mean offensive as in like offense. I mean like offensive as in like like damaging to the game. Like it's like the least upsetting stat that they could give you. Like toughness would not be good. Any offensive stat could be like game breaking. So like Vitality was kind of the only, like it was the safest option.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean it won't be the only option in the future.
I wonder what was like their reasoning behind even adding it. Going like, hey, I've got this Jade Bot, it would be fun, let's add some vitality to it. Because like, even if they didn't, I don't think it would have been a big difference. I don't think anyone's going like, oh yeah, I want this Jade Bot because I'm getting 2,000 extra health from it.
Well, now you have to have the Jade Bot.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of like not wanting, like before, if you were like, yeah, I'm a hardcore blah blah blah, I don't care about this, I'm not going to do any of these collections, and it's like, oh well, 2,000 HP, well, I kind of have to do it now.
I kind of want that.
I think it was actually very specific what they were trying to do here. Now, obviously, we cannot fathom the mind of ArenaNet, but I think they were actually, it's not a meme, I think they were directly targeting rebalancing the hit points in open world a little bit. Specifically open world. A little bit, maybe in instance content as well, right? Like, but I think they were actually, I think there's a legitimate criticism to be had in open world where everything does a lot of damage, right? Like if you get hit by a world boss, it actually really hurts a lot of the time, right? It will smash you. And that's actually a little bit unfair in PvE. Like Guild Wars 2 has always been designed around this concept of PvP, where the lower hit point professions typically have some other kind of survivability, right? Like Guardian can block stuff, heal itself, apply boons. Ellie can heal itself really well, has evasion, has boon access. Thief has stealth and evasion and so on, right? So they have low HP as a baseline, but they have other ways to compensate for that. Now, that is a lot less relevant, particularly for Weaver in PvE, because you don't typically spec into that strength. If you're playing, if you're playing a DPS Weaver, you just do damage. You just pump. You just do big DPS. On Thief, it's kind of the same as well, right? Like you're not going to be like stealthing up and disengaging all the time when you're fighting a world boss. Guardian's the only one that comes out well there because Aegis is still really good. But I actually think that it's not a joke. They were probably thinking players are having a hard time on low hit point, low vitality professions in open world. Let's give them some more vitality as a baseline to reduce the, percentage difference in a way between the low vitality and the high vitality. Because realistically, yeah, it's nice to have like, oh wow, I've got an extra 2k HP on my warrior, but you already had 20k HP and you're in heavy armor. You're all right. It's a much bigger deal for Lil Timmy, who's just learning to play Weaver, just gets one shot by a world boss, just destroyed. It's a much bigger deal there. And it is a bit of a problem. Like the HP balance is an issue for PvE in general because of the way that PvE tends to play out. If they make an attack that does 7,000 damage from a boss, that is way worse to get hit by if you're playing something that has 11,000 health than if you're playing something that has 20,000 health, right? That's, 3/4 of all of your, health gone immediately compared to a third or so, right? On a high vitality class. So that will be why I think they did it. And I kind of agree with that reasoning. I'm not sure if I'd extend it out to instance content because there, I feel like mechanical failure is what's going to kill you, perhaps more than necessarily like just taking too much damage and getting bopped because of how much healing there is. You're going to get healed up very quickly, right? So unless you get one shot, you probably aren't going to die. But even there, it's a problem. You know, I was thinking about this a lot, like after the stream, because I was thinking like, wow, is it actually a little bit messed up that Weaver has lower health than other things? And in a way, the answer is yes. Because no matter what ANet does, if a boss has a certain amount of damage, it will always be more of a threat to things that have that. And if they want to balance around something like Necromancer with loads of health, they kind of have to make bosses hit harder. But if they do, they just make all the low health things kind of useless because they won't be able to survive, right? Like imagine if every single boss just punched you for 10,000 damage every attack to make it balanced around Necro. Well, great job. Now everything one-shots you if you play Weaver or Thief, which it would be quite funny. You know, that would be quite funny to see people's reactions to that, but it probably wouldn't be a very good idea and wouldn't exactly encourage build diversity.
Yeah, it's a shame that there'd be no counter to that. Like people are just not used to dodging, or using Aegis. They just expect to be healed and carried by other players.
I feel you go ahead. Yeah.
So there was an interesting question, and Teapot, I already know you know the answer because you talked about it on stream yesterday. There was a question in chat where why didn't they just make it baseline then if that's their intention?
To be honest,
this is a big brain move.
I mean, is it though? I mean,
I think so.
I'm not sure.
I mean, simplistic, but it's just they're going to give you this power core, and you're going to have the little bot, but you don't have End of Dragons, and you really want the cute little bot to power up and do more stuff for you. So I guess you'll just have to buy the expansion so you can unlock more of the bot's functions.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like, I get it. Although I'm not actually sure that's why they did that. Don't you think that the reason why they made that...
No, I don't think that's their main motivation. I just think it's an added bonus to tease players into buying the expansion.
Sure. And I think they wanted to avoid all allegations of pay to win as well.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't think it would be, right, either way, because, I mean, like, buy the expansion, come on, right? But they wanted to say, there's no way you can say this game is pay to win. So we give you the stats basically for free. And it's also a very effective teaser, right? It will definitely get people to buy the expansion. I completely agree with that. For sure.
Well, the funny thing is, like, the stats have upgrades, right? Like, there's different tiers of the core. So
yes,
would sort of imply that you can get all tiers of the thing in Corteria. Like, but
I think you can buy them on the
on the TP, on the TP. So you won't be able to craft them yourself directly, be able to buy them, is what it seems like.
Which is actually quite interesting because I wonder how expensive like the higher ones are going to be. Like we know that for the core it's going to be 10 different tiers, and I'm guessing that the higher tiers give you more and more vitality. I wonder if this is going to be like a very cheap purchase. And it's not going to be like accounts wide, I imagine. I imagine you'll have to buy one for every single character.
That's correct. It is not account wide.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So if the tier 1 or the tier 10 one actually turns out to be kind of expensive, there's actually like some very slight vertical progression we've got there. You got to get that gold for that vitality in your character.
I think there's also an effective hook. I think that having like a little bit of, I don't know. I'm kind of against it in principle, but I understand it. I think it can be accounted for, by changing the balance elsewhere. And it could potentially nudge things in the right direction, certainly in PvE. Like, we know it's not going to be enabled in World versus World and PvP. And in a way, I like this. This is why it is perhaps more elegant than just changing the base vitality. Because if you change the base vitality, right, it would change it in every game mode, which you have less granularity over the control of these little balance tweaks. So I kind of don't mind it, because it means that you can nudge things in the right direction in PvE where different rules apply compared to, say, PvP or, World versus World. For example, if you made everything start out with 20,000 hit points in PvP in World versus World, that would be a catastrophe. That would probably be really, really imbalanced and completely insane. Like Thief is tough enough to kill as it is in PvP right now with Shadow Arts and stuff. If you double its hit points, that will be a little spooky, a little bit scary. And of course, you know, as we previously discussed, there are other factors that go into the survivability of professions in PvP and world versus world, which don't see as much of an effect, right, in PvE environments. So I can kind of understand where they're coming from with this, because it allows them to make some fine changes to try and help out some underperforming or underutilized builds and professions in open world and instance content, which I think is an interesting idea.
Speaking of like open world survivability though, another thing that they're obviously adding is the resurrection skill, which again for the squishy open world professions might actually be kind of big. Trying to do hero points or something, you just res yourself. I think that's gonna have a huge impact on like the casual open world experience.
Yeah, and the
That's
waypoint
good.
too.
Yeah.
I never have to res any noobs.
It has got a
ever.
10-minute cooldown though, so it's got a
That's
pretty long cooldown.
I mean, stay down then.
Then you can waypoint yourself.
If you go down, despite the new vitality, you still go down, and then you res yourself with your bot, and then you go down again. I mean, why should I take time to res you? You're just going to go down a third time, so it's just a complete waste. Just let you die.
Wow.
Yep.
There's no mercy there.
At least my cute Jade Bot will res me the second time. Oh, you can actually like apparently there's an equip you can get for it that like shaves off time from the rest.
Yeah.
So you can get it from
Yeah.
10 minutes to like 6 minutes,
Yeah.
I believe. So if you
6
go down
minute
a lot,
res.
I can go down every 6 minutes.
I don't have a super strong opinion on this, because it's trying to maybe solve a problem where people just kind of die and don't respawn, right? Like you see this a lot in meta events. People go like, "Oh, I'm dead," right? And instead of waypointing, they're gonna go, "Res me, please," right? And they end up just doing nothing, right, and just leeching the event pretty much. That's kind of hard to fix. I'm not sure if this is really going to address that. It's a pretty cool feature. It's a bit like the old. It's like a re-implementation of the lifesteal thing that we got from the Living Story, but that was obviously a lot harder to balance, right? Because like Necro could actually like solo Turiosa using this, whereas other professions got a little bit less value from the passive like lifesteal signet when you're in downstate. So I think it's fine. It's an interesting implementation, but not the biggest thing, to be honest.
I don't quite know, but do you have to be alive to drop the waypoint?
I mean, you have to be
yeah, there's like an animation you do and stuff. So
yeah.
Oh well, okay.
Also, the personal waypoints, it's gonna be single use, which
Indeed.
I was not expecting. I thought you could just like put it in your favorite place and then go there all the time. Not quite as powerful.
That'd be good for leeching jumping puzzle.
Yeah.
Chests once a
Yeah,
day.
it's what I was worried about. I was just envisioning like fighting this world boss and everyone just feeding and just bum rushing it, right? Just like death running at it like over and over again.
So like you would put the waypoint like at Sequoia, literally.
Yeah,
like, next to
yeah,
it.
just die, respawn, and just rush at it until the boss falls over. But I think that was probably one of the reasons why they made it single use, because they didn't want this just absurd moment where everyone's just respawning constantly and just rushing at something until it dies. So I think giving it some limitation is good. I think they were a bit limited by tech here as well, right? Because I imagine that if they just like have like all these waypoints like permanently left somewhere, that's probably going to be a little bit weird. Do we know if it stays if you move maps, by the way? Because I'm not sure if it does.
It probably doesn't.
I don't think they confirmed it, but I think it would.
You think it does?
Yeah, I mean, it's the waypoints, right? Like that feels like a permanent-ish thing.
Yeah, because then you could do it with jumping puzzles chests. You could kind of say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna leave it here until I need it," and then boom.
Yeah,
waypoint every day.
You get on your siege turtle, and then your friend gets on your siege turtle with you, and then you teleport your friends to the end of the.
Yeah, that's big.
Big brain.
And then you start selling it on the LFG. You say, "Yeah, I'm selling my personal waypoint to you."
Oh no!
Yeah. Yes.
Got like all our raid sellers, but now we're gonna get jumping puzzle sellers like flooding the LFG.
You can waypoint people to your dungeon where you have your ERP situation.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the real selling point on the
Solma districts in the Vinci Street.
It's the true end game right there. Yep. Jade Bot, pretty cool little feature actually. Like the thing that I think is really cool actually is that they finally added like a camera mode to the game as well. You can go in first person, fly around with the Jade Bot with a remote controller. It's very limited though. I guess they
work.
Well,
it's okay. I
yeah,
like it as it
really?
is, but
you think it's not good enough?
Well, I think they need to develop first person. I think that you need to be able to take screenshots of your character and of the landscapes and so forth without the bot in the shot.
You can do that.
Oh, I think you can go first person in it, yeah.
Yeah, you can.
I thought they said it wasn't first person.
Yeah, the bot, that was fake news.
Ben said to me yesterday that the bot will be on the screen, I thought he said.
Really? I didn't actually see them go first person, but someone in my chat mentioned that in the Guild Wars 2 chat, someone has confirmed you could go first person. I'm not sure if they actually showed it off though. I think what happened there though is I think a lot of people kind of like jumped on it and were like, oh, this means we're getting photo modes, even though they never like explicitly said that it was going to be that. People were kind of like, oh, well, this has to be photo modes. And everyone starts yelling photo modes on Twitter. Still though, it still seems darn cool, like flying around with it.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I think it's very cool. I think it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
I think it's something a lot of people will use. I mean, fashion contests and showing off your character and posting it to Reddit is a really big thing, right, for a lot of players. So
unfortunately.
Wow.
So, but yeah, people like taking pictures of their character and their gear setup and so forth. And I do think it's a step in the right direction. Maybe just needs a tiny bit more development, unless I'm wrong and it does go in first person, and then awesome.
I just want to use it in more maps, because right now,
that too, right? Yeah,
it's like restricted to like these tiny areas where there's a console, which I kind of get it because you can probably like kind of break the game in lots of places. When they added like gliding, they had to like go through all the Corteria maps and try to make sure people didn't break the game. I probably imagine they would have to do something similar here, and that's why they limited it for now. I want to have this in Lion's Arch, though. I want to have this in Divinity's Reach and like all over the place and just take lots of pictures.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's pretty clear from what Ben P was saying, in the future they will be adding more and more places that you'll be able to access it from.
I think this is something that's really, really interesting about the Jade Bot, actually. And this is why I have a bit of hope for certain things to be improved upon. The way the Jade Bot is set up is very much with extensibility in the future in mind. And it's something that Ben said in my chat after that they were done with the show, that they wanted to hit on that a little bit more, but they kind of forgot to do it, which is, it happens, right? It happens. That there's a lot of potential to add new cores and add new features. So I think this is actually going to be a mastery that you're going to see developed through the course of Ender Dragons. They're going to add more things to it, potentially add new masteries and new functionality that it can do through the core itself. And so I think you might see various improvements and tweaks to it that will give it more and potentially give it the features that we're talking about here, like an actual proper photo mode. Because I think this is a really cool thing they have in Final Fantasy, right? And I think this is Guild Wars 2. This is literally the game where you post screenshots of your character. That is what you do here. If you aren't doing that, you're probably not a real Guild Wars 2 player. Fake Guild Wars 2 player only.
Casual player.
Ooh. I like that. That's good. Casual player if you're not screenshotting your own character.
There's another really cool thing with the Jade Bot. Another very small subsect of the community who love the Griffin runs. I love the Griffin runs, and I think they're really cool. I know Willow's really into that. You can give yourself a gliding boost with it. And that could really help you do extra things with the Griffin that you weren't able to do before.
Yeah.
Oh,
for
yeah.
Sure.
There's also one of the equips which makes endurance for the mounts regenerate faster. I think it's quite a lot actually, something
30%.
30% or something.
Yeah, big time.
And,
big
the Griffin
beetle.
is perfectly balanced not to gain height. But if you equip that, I wonder if you can just fly up infinitely, if you've got enough flaps to just keep going higher. I think that might actually be a thing, or maybe they thought about that.
They probably tested it, but yeah, you can kind of keep your height very well on the Griffin right now. I imagine there's certainly some potential to gain a lot of height there, which is pretty interesting because I think that using stuff like that, I mean, you could already kind of break the map with Skyscale, right? Like Skyscale is pretty wild. You can get anywhere with it. And one of the concerns they had with the Jade Bot is that they didn't, with the terminals, right, to make the Jade Bot fly around and helicopter around. They were worried that you'd be able to see, there are some places they don't want you to be able to go, essentially. But it seems like with the Skyscale and the Griffin, you're going to be able to kind of go everywhere, anywhere with that, like particularly with the extra endurance regeneration. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out, but it certainly brings a lot of possibilities to the Griffin community and the Beetle community in terms of, improving times and doing new tricks and new stuff there. So I think that's very, very exciting, actually. I kind of can't wait to see what they're going to add with the Jade Bot. It's just in the future, right? It's a little bit power creepy, but it doesn't feel that bad, right? It feels very horizontal rather than like direct power creep, I think, which is pretty cool.
You know what I think they're gonna add? They're gonna add an equip that makes you drop Mystic coins in Fractal Challenge mode. That is the one that's gonna sell a bunch. That is, I'm calling it now. Okay.
So
that's a segue.
Do you think this was? I should probably just drop it. But do you think this was developed later in the cycle? Because this seems like a much bigger feature than a lot of the other stuff they've talked about.
I think it was probably the first thing they came up with.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
I got a bit of a
this is such a big thing. It baffles me. Like that we heard about it sort of kind of late into the cycle.
They wanted to, give us kind of like the crappy stuff first, like Arborstone, and then once our spirits were in the dumps, then they hit us with a little razzle dazzle to get us back in their good graces.
You know what's the thing though? Like, I think there's a bit of a conspiracy here. Does anyone remember like the first Look live stream? I think during that live stream, all the way back in was it like July or something? I think they said like soon we will tell you about the Jade Mastery. And then they just kind of never did. I wonder if originally they were gonna show the Jade Bots like super early, but then they went like, you know what? Let's save this one for a couple months. I remember just being like confused. Like I think they literally went like, we're gonna have a blog post up later, and then it just never appears.
I think the fact that the game was supposed to originally launch like in December or November kind of messed up their reveal system, like their rollout.
Yeah, I think maybe one reason is because the Jade Bot is not. It might not be as relatable to players outside the game because it kind of improves features in the game already. So without context, it doesn't mean as much. I think that the Jade Bot is more interesting to, say, us and players who already play the game and have experience with the systems rather than like just completely new players. To completely new players, it's like camera mode and zip lines and charging up lanterns with Jade batteries. It's kind of like what that means. But from our perspective, the Jade Bot has a lot of other implications because we already know how these systems work and how enhancing them is going to make it more interesting. So that's maybe a reason. But I certainly think that, it was probably something that took them a pretty long time to develop. Like, it seems to be like the most fleshed out mastery. So, perhaps they were like, oh, scrap that. We'll change it a little bit. And they came back to it a little bit later. But hey, it's better late than never. And look, they did need something after that rebound. The last stream we got in 2021 was Arborstone. Just destroyed people. Mentally broke. Everyone. And
I pulled a whole take on this, okay? I feel like I am the only person who is excited for Arborstone. I remember when that live stream drops.
That's true.
People in my chat were going like, Teapot is broken, and you are so excited. We were like the exact opposite. You were like sitting there like, oh, I didn't like this stream. And I was like, oh my gosh, Arborstone looks amazing. Literally. Like, I'm actually so excited for that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to be in like an empty ass green castle with nothing going on. It's gonna be super fun.
It's like a new city, Like
a new city with nothing happening. Cool.
Yeah, no, but I was gonna be there for Strike CM.
Yeah.
I need a new place to play music. That's the thing, okay? Like I'm tired of Divinity's Reach. I'm gonna go to Arborstone. All those people doing strikes to get their mystic coins. I'm gonna bother them with music, and it's gonna be great. I'm so excited. Like, actually,
It's perfect.
I think so.
I think the thing that got me with that stream was that I was like, gameplay feature reveal, let's go. I'm hyped. I'm ready to see some gameplay. And then there was no gameplay. That was, otherwise we're like, okay, it's a very pretty castle, right? I can see that, there's trees, it's green, there's things, but there's no gameplay.
Yeah, the title of that stream was probably not that well picked, I have to say.
Yeah.
Still though, Arborstone is gonna be the new Lions Arch.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
And you might be right, especially with some of the other changes. Here we go. Let's finish that segue you started, Lara. Let's go. So now that we've discussed the Jade Bot, okay, look, it's just like Arborstone. It's a roller coaster. Arborstone brought everyone's morale down. The Jade Bot brought it back up, and then ANet just took a hammer and just destroyed people. Because on the same day as the Jade Bot reveal stream, ArenaNet unleashed a blog post that I can say without exaggeration is probably more significant than basically everything in the expansion so far in terms of the way it's going to change the game and the way people interact with the game. Or at least a lot of people are perceiving it that way, I think. That is right. ArenaNet, they've changed the way Mystic Coins and Mystic Clovers are going to be acquired in the game a little bit. They're nuking the balance of the game. Spirits and banners are not long for this world, okay? And strike missions are the next big, juicy content. Oh, yeah, you got some new attributes as well. New attributes too. Wow, very exciting. But I think the big one that we want to dig into first is the change to fractals. And this is what, look, I can feel the temperature rising already. This is going to get hot. Okay, so buckle up, chat. Buckle up. ArenaNet have decided that fractals are too rewarding. And they have removed the mystic coins from fractal CMs. And they have increased the price of buying the daily clovers. Or rather, they are going to be increasing the price. This hasn't happened yet, but it will happen soon. From 1 mystic coin to 2 mystic coins a day, you do drop 1 ecto, so there is that. But this is a pretty significant hit to what you can get every day from fractals, and essentially this has been redistributed into strike missions and raids as well, which is very exciting. But I think that's enough of an introduction to the topic. I think we need Nike to open this up here, actually, because I know you've got some pretty spicy spicy takes on this.
Everyone knows I'm not a fractal enjoyer, so I'll state up front, my bias is that I'm glad fractals are getting the rewards toned down. It was too good. It needed to be nerfed, and I'm glad it is. And if you're a fractal only player, that's the only content you do in the game, you're probably pretty upset. And it's really easy to uninstall the game. You should probably just go ahead and do it if you're that upset. A lot of people on various Discords and on Twitter are like, I'm going to uninstall the game. Go ahead and do it. No one gives a shit about your threats. Don't make threats. Just uninstall if that's your deal, man.
Just do it.
No one is going, oh my God, CharFan19 is threatening to uninstall the game. Let's reverse the change. No. CharFan19 can uninstall and change his Twitter handle to like some Final Fantasy related fan 19. Like, I don't get the threats, man. Like, no one needs to know if you're leaving the game.
What do they call it in Final Fantasy? Falafels? You can be a
Wait,
falafel.
falafel?
What are they called? Lalafels?
Yeah,
Fairies?
yeah. I like falafels more though. I think
Falafel. You could be a falafel enjoyer.
Yeah, it's way better.
And I do recall that, like, what are fractals gold per hour? Like, if you're in a good group, like 30 something gold per hour? Like if doing all the CMs.
34 or something
Okay,
like that?
let's just say 34. Okay, so you're losing on average 3 mystic coins. Okay, that's 6 gold. Darn, you're only making 28 gold an hour. Oh man, I feel so bad for you. Like that, it's not even. It's a little bit over 10% reward nerf. Dungeons lost 50% reward nerf when they nerfed dungeons.
Ooh.
I've already lived through this. You know, like 10%, that's fucking nothing. That's child's play. Just get over it. It's still rewarding. It's still better than doing silver wastes.
It is still pretty good.
Yeah, I think Guild MM was in.
I was gonna say what people are mad about is that they were used to doing the CMs every day in addition to the daily T4s. And now they're like, well, now there's not as much of an incentive to do the CMs, except for the fact that the CMs are still 100% worth doing every day from a gold per hour perspective. Sure, they're not like the most insane gold per hour that they used to be, but we're talking about a group of players who play the game for 20 minutes a day doing their daily fractals, and then they AFK for the next 23 hours, or they pug raids for no rewards. Like, it's not that big of a deal to run the CMs and get an insane gold per hour from that. Like even without Mystic Coins.
I think what people are a little bit upset about is that ArenaNet has made a pretty big shift here away from liquid rewards to account rewards. That's actually not entirely true, funnily enough, because I actually did a bit of research on this, talked to a few gamers, and you can actually get a good amount of value out of the CMs because of the integrated fractal matrices. You can trade those in for keys, right? Like the fractal encryption keys. So you're still going to be able to get some value. Like, you're absolutely right. It will still be worth to do these things 100%. I think a lot of the frustration is coming from the fact that this kind of breaks the rule of the harder the content is, the more rewarding it should be, right? And the interesting thing about this is that I think it points to a really big problem, like an even bigger problem with fractal tier 4s. Fractal tier 4s are very, very overpowered. They are pretty ridiculous with the way they're designed. And this is a bit of an issue because if you want to respect that, oh yeah, harder content should give you better rewards, well, you're going to have to make everything that's harder than tier 4s give more rewards than tier 4s, which is a bit of a problem because of how insanely rewarding tier 4 fractals are. But the thing is that if ANet nerfed tier 4s really hard, I don't think people would accept that at all. I think people would hate that. Like, if you could change it, so, okay, right, we're going to nerf tier 4s and then give CMs something back so that CMs are more rewarding than tier 4s now, that's going to make people very unhappy. They're going to be very angry with that change. A lot angrier than they would be with just this change, I think. So I think ArenaNet's definitely in a difficult position to try and handle these, try and handle the situation without making everyone really, really big mad. And I think they also face a lot of problems with strike missions in general, because the thing about fractals is they're a little bit limited in a way. And that's why they added weekly gates, right, for this stuff, because they wanted to keep a control over how people are acquiring things. If you have 20 strike missions, you can do every single one every day and you'll get a full reward for all of those, potentially with challenge mode as well. With fractals, you're only going to get full reward from the 3 dailies, right? And after that, you're going to get significantly lower rewards. But ArenaNet plan on adding basically infinite strike missions. In 3 years' time, there could be 20 or even more than that. And yeah, you'll be able to do every single one, every single day, right? And get the rewards every time, right? Like, or, just keep doing that over and over again. So I think that's why they've added these weekly gates. So basically, you can now buy up to 25 Mystic Clovers at a discounted rate, and even 10 Mystic Coins from Strike Mission currency in the new expansion, Ender Dragons. So I think there is a bit of, there's logic to this. I understand what they're trying to do with this stuff. I do understand why people are upset about it, but as much as I hate to say it, it kind of is a little bit for the greater good here. I think it's a little bit better for the long-term health of the game economy. And challenge modes, they are still worth it, but they were also ridiculously overpowered. This is going to be something that we're going to be getting into a little bit later, right? With the balance stuff. Yeah, they're nerfing certain builds insanely hard, but that's because they were ridiculously overpowered. And yeah, that feels bad, but that doesn't mean it actually is bad for the game overall. Like, fixing things that are broken is really important in being able to incentivize players to do certain things and, you know, engage with that content, because ultimately fractals are kind of a thorn in the side of ArenaNet because they're so rewarding that they kind of overpower everything else in terms of acquiring things, right? Like getting legendaries. And this is the flaw with Guild Wars 2's reward structure, right? Because the reward structure is so fluid, you can basically play any content you want to get anything you want in the game. It means that the rewards have to be balanced, pretty well balanced, or players are going to be heavily drawn to one area of the game and nothing else. And that was definitely fractals. I do think the funny thing is, though, and you know, like a bit of a meme, is that it wasn't CMs. Like, challenge modes were, you know, a lot of people have done them and people do farm them every day, but tier 4s are definitely like more impactful, not to Mystic Coins, but to the, you know, to the farming thing overall, than the challenge modes.
Yeah, I think so. ANet's idea is that they only want a certain rate of Mystic Coins entering the economy. And so what they're doing is they're just shifting it from one area to another, right? Like, they're saying, I would assume, and Kidda sort of made this point, and I sort of agree with it, that instead of going like zero, like ANet goes, okay, we have a pie of Mystic Coins and we're going to cut it up. Let's give raids a slice. Let's give strikes a slice. Oh, and fractals get no slice. I think people would be less upset if they gave fractals a tiny slice, but still like a slice. Like, if you do all 3 daily CMs or whatever, then you get like 1 Mystic Coin. You could at least, you know, or something. I don't care about the numbers. The numbers aren't specific. What matters is the fact that they don't get any slice of the Mystic Coin pie. Whereas I think it was obvious that they were channeling it to 10-man content, and perhaps a more equitable distribution, but one that still doesn't favor fractals over every other content would have been okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing of this is like, the thing I kind of like the idea of like, because fractals again were so darn rewarding, especially compared to the rest of the game. I do think it makes sense to shift some of that to incentivize people to like raids and strikes. I do think that's good. I kind of like what they're doing with the Mystic Clover conversion, how you can also now convert Mystic Clovers using magnetite shards and stuff like that. The thing is though, what I don't like is that they're getting rid of an incentive to do challenge modes specifically. That is like the part where I'm like, I would like to see them have like a reason for people to do those challenge modes. And that's kind of what's disappearing a bit. Like, there used to be big incentive, now the incentive is kind of disappearing. There's still like reason to do them. You will still get goals. I think a lot of people are kind of, again, I don't like the thing that they're doing with the Mystic Coins, but I do think there's a lot of overreaction going on. Like, I've seen some people going like, oh, this is the exact same as dungeons. Fractals are dead. And I'm like, yo, fractals are still like some of the best gold per hour. Fractals are not gonna die. Fractal CMs might get less popular though, but fractals as a whole are fine. And also, like,
Fractal
I
CMs are
actually
already
think,
not popular. Like,
yeah,
that's the other thing too, is like
I actually
a
think
small
that like,
percentage of people did them, like when they weren't the daily.
Yeah.
I think
This-
that Mystic Coins as a whole though, like, people are like talking about like, oh, the Mystic Coin economy is gonna like, oh, the price is gonna go up. I actually think we might end up with more Mystic Coins, because they're shifting them from like this CMs, which again was kind of a tiny hardcore community doing those. Now everyone is going to do NF Dragon Strike is going to be able to get those.
Oh, yeah.
They're not going to be RNG. I actually think that they might go, the price for Mystic Coins might go up a bit because of the new legendaries, but I think in the end, I do fractal CMs, but I do fractal CMs like twice a week. I did them yesterday. I got 0 Mystic Coins because it's RNG. I think that like with a ton of people starting to do these strikes, and also the normal mode, the not hard challenge mode strikes, I think we might end up with more Mystic Coins in the end. And I think that's probably a large reason why they got rid of them. They were like, oh, we need to get people to do strikes. Let's add Mystic Coins. oh, we should probably remove Mystic Coins somewhere else. I feel like that's a part of it.
They're
I
just the
think the
backbone
ideal
of the
solution,
economy.
yeah,
They have
I,
to. It's like that. Everything starts from Mystic Coins.
it's like you said, it's like a pie, right? Like how you split it up. I think it would have been nice if they gave some to strikes and also kept some in challenge modes. You know, like instead of getting rid of all of them, maybe get rid of a couple, but still have that like nice reason for people to do those challenge modes every day, besides just the regular rewards, I suppose.
No, I think that's definitely true. What you said there about there being more Mystic Coins thing is certainly accurate. Like the way they're aiming strike missions is pretty entry level PvE. Certainly a few tiers below challenge modes. Challenge modes, they're not like super hard, particularly with the way the game plays out right now. But most players do not do them, right, and have difficulty completing that content. So strike missions are going to be a lot more accessible, which will certainly inject a lot of Mystic Coins. And this sort of thing is pretty interesting because fractals are weird because you get a lot of liquid gold from them. Like when when you open your encryptions, you just get very expensive junk items that you then sell. So you just get gold. And if Mystic Coin prices go down, then in a way, fractals become more valuable, right? And I maybe that's a little 4D chess, but hey, look, if they have someone designing the economy, they have to be a little 4D chess. So in theory, fractals could increase in value because if the prices go down, then you can get more with your fractal loot, right? So if they are able to address the problem of Mystic Coins being incredibly expensive, then in a way, you're to an extent compensated, particularly as I think players will start looking at challenge modes and looking at integrated fractal matrices and realize that they can use the extra encryptions they get to get even more liquidity from doing those challenge modes, while also still potentially like high rolling on certain drops that you can get from the end boss, and then kind of going for that too. Then I don't know, like it might become more of a value proposition. In a way, this almost reminds me of a bit of a balance patch, right? Like you almost have to change the way you approach the game in theorycraft a little bit to maybe figure out how the new paradigm is going to work with the economy and what how to extract value, right? I think this is one of the things about Guild Wars 2 that is so interesting, and I think it's why you have so many, like a big TP Baron community here. The economy is very intricate. There's a lot of detail and interaction that you have to be aware of to get value out of things because it's so item and transaction based with players trading with each other. So there might just need to be some extra theory crafting that will allow players to figure out how they're going to get value out of this stuff, and figure that out with interacting with challenge modes. But yeah, like the other thing that you brought up there as well, which is just huge brain, wrinkly brain here. I do think that the major concern is that if it turns out that challenge modes aren't really worth as much for kind of normal players to engage with, then that is going to significantly reduce the amount of groups doing these challenge modes when they're out of the daily rotation on a daily basis, which is going to significantly change the gameplay loop for a good amount of players, right? Fractals are popular content. You will see a lot of people doing these on a daily basis, farming stuff out, farming these rewards, and farming Fractal God or whatever people are going up to, and removing some pretty heavy incentives from doing this with this very valuable resource, such as Mystic Coins, that could potentially harm the scene, right? And kind of, again, break the rule that we talked about, right? That hard content should probably be a little more rewarding than easy content. It's one of the things that kind of screws raids over. Like, raids are a very bad value proposition because you have to put a lot of time in to learn them, and realistically, you're not going to get that much loot, right? Your gold per hour, it's not going to be good. But now that I say that, I think a lot of the problems with this actually stems from players not appreciating account value as gold. People tend to really overvalue liquid gold and not really think about account value. Because if you think about account value, raids are actually insane. Like if you do like a 4-hour full clear, which is, pretty doable even for like a decent group that they know the raids and know what's up, then you could potentially get like 5 or 6 ascended items during all of that. You have the magnetite shards for even more utility in the gating crystals. That's actually a huge amount of account value. It's going to be pretty intense. Like just the liquid gold alone is okay, right? Selling the exotics and getting the actual gold coins. But then if you mix in the actual account bound drops you get, then it's huge. And I think that you almost like need to be, I think we need to kind of encourage players to view everything in that regard, like everything the same way. Because a lot of things give you account value, right? Like, you know, you can get the unique account rewards from fractals. You know, you can get the infusions, you can get the gear, you can get stat infusions, right? All that kind of stuff. And that does have value. And I think that a lot of players don't respect that value. The problem is that obviously once you have all of that, it doesn't really have any value anymore. Because, you know, if you have full legendary, then an ascended drop is kind of worthless to you at that point. But that's a very small amount of the player base that has that problem, I think.
Now,
Yeah, I mean, the richest people in the game, they only care about account value. They want that number on efficiency to go up. They don't care about the raw liquid gold. Like, that's not their priority.
very, very strange thought. I'm not actually proposing this, but I just considered this while we were thinking about this. What would people think if we would like nerf tier 4 rewards slightly and like move those rewards to challenge modes? Like, how would people respond to that? I think a lot of
They would
people would
flip out.
not like that. Yeah, because there's a lot of people just do tier 4s, but then you would have that incentive to do challenge modes again, right? Because they would give you more rewards than tier 4s. Not sure about that one.
Yeah, I think that would be correct. But I also think it will make people big mad. Like, even bigger mad than this. Because right now, people are big mad. Like, everyone's on fire. Right? I heard, you know, people were telling me, yeah, my fractal Discord is exploding. Everyone's going berserk, right? Everyone's
Imagine
flaming.
being in a fractal
right?
Discord. Holy
like,
shit.
What? Yo, if this
What
happens, we're all gonna
a
blame me for
sad
this.
state of affairs.
Wow. Nike, you can't do this. Like, the fractal players are going to destroy you. Like, you're not... I think you
do they know how to type? Like, are they going to leave a mean YouTube comment? Like that? Oh, darn.
Wow.
Nuts.
That's pretty intense. Like, you know, fractal Discord gaming is popping there.
I would say that I'd make the same joke about a raid Discord. Like, I wouldn't
really?
be in that either.
Oh, wow. I mean, what Discord would you be in?
Meme Discord.
Meme?
Yeah.
Dungeon Discord.
I wouldn't do that either. That would just be like the Guild Wars 1 Discord at this point, which is a really sad place.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Fractal gaming, my friends. Fractal gaming. I do like that they've actually done something with raids though, right? Like, there is going to be a reward rework to raids. That to me sparks a bit of hope, right? Am I wrong there? Like, a little bit of hope. Like, they still remember the game mode exists. It's there, right? You can now get Mystic Clovers from it. Wow, incredible. It'll be a little bit harder to get the Mystic Coins, though, because you need a lot of Mystic Coins now, right? Like, you need 50 Mystic Coins a week will be drained from your account to optimize all of the Clovers, right? So that's the interesting part, is like, where are you going to get that? It almost seems like they're deliberately trying to drain coins from the economy and, again, shift it to account value. Like, that's why I kind of brought the account values, because it's very noted that you aren't getting Mystic Coins from these things. You're getting Clovers. You can get discounted Clovers. They want you spend your Mystic Coins, and they aren't adding that many additional sources. Now, there could be some more in the expansion potentially, right? So maybe they'll, you know, from an event, you get a Mystic Coin every day or something like that, or I don't know, like some kind of repeatable achievement. Maybe the strike mission. If the strike mission CMs drop like Mystic Coins, that would be extremely funny. At that point, everyone would just completely lose their minds, because like, wait, okay, they just want us to do strike CMs. They're just forcing us to do it for Mystic Coins. But I'm not sure if they'll do that, because I think, again, I don't think they want to actually have these things like in a way that farmable. It seems like they're really trying to get a proper hold on the economy and lock it down a little bit more. To prevent it from just spiraling out of control. So that's pretty interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff to think about indeed.
They should move the Leyline event Daily Mystic Coin to the Pinata. That way there's like a much more challenging event especially on NA to get the Mystic Coin. Because like the Leyline, that's too easy. But if you move it to the Pinata, then you have an event that like could potentially fail, and the Mystic Coin would be worth like, it'd be way higher value.
Put it on the MightyTeapot because then people actually start doing that again.
They should put it on the ArenaNet.
That would be really fun.
I like that.
And if you're in a lane
I
that
like
fails,
that a
you
lot.
have it like makes it so that you don't get a mystic coin.
Wow.
0 coins for
Or if your
failure.
if your platform fails, you don't get a mystic coin. Like if
Ooh.
you die or like fail, like might as well
I
just
feel like
leave.
that might be too much salt in the MightyTeapot.
Then you are
It's already got plenty of salt though.
unworthy of mystic coins.
If you can't solo the boss, you are not worthy. So if you can't kill your boss, even if your teammate feeds, you are bad and you don't deserve a mystic coin.
Yeah, you get like
Unless
a
she
TeaTime
steps on
coin
you.
instead or something.
Yeah,
That'd be
nice.
good.
I like that. You know, that's some pretty good stuff right there. I think we've kind of exhausted this topic, funnily enough. I'm interested to see what people think of what we said here, actually. It's always one of those things,
it's
someone's
gonna
like,
be good.
what are the comments going to be? What's going on there? You know, actually, before we move on to the balance stuff, actually, I kind of want Inks' take. Because Inks has been there lurking, right? He's been there, just, you know, surrounded by all of his crypto mining rigs, just waiting to pounce.
They're in the basement. There's no room for them in the apartment anymore. Anyway, the balance thing. A lot of people upset over going to 5-man possible mirror. Of course, we discussed this. The 4 of us discussed this a little bit earlier, but and we'll get into it here. That it, you know, people may not fully understand what the mirror means or what the mirror is or was back when there was an actual mirror. And as far as Druid goes, Ranger, because that's the class that I play the most, I'm excited for Spirits to go away, actually. I'm excited to see what they rework back in and hopefully make the class not just, I plop my Spirits down. All right, I guess I'm done with all of that.
Mm-hmm. I think their philosophy is very interesting. They want to, what they want to do is they want to make like every profession can basically do all of the roles. And they've kind of split up the roles. Like quickness counts as a role now. Alacrity is a role. Damage is a role. Healing is a role, right? Probably general boons are considered a role too. Like, you know, protection, might, fury, swiftness, all that kind of stuff. And they pretty much want everyone to be able to do all of those or most of those. The exceptions now, like, very pointedly being Warrior and Ranger, right? And they very heavily implied that it looks like Banners and Spirits are going to be reworked in a pretty significant way in that summer balance patch that was mentioned there, probably including quickness and alacrity. So that will be very interesting. My major concern there is they're giving quickness and alacrity to a baseline mechanic if they're going to put it on Banners, right? If they get, let's suppose they give quickness to Banners in some way or to Warrior. Well, that means that every single version of Warrior can do that. And it's the same thing with Ranger as well, right? Like if they give alacrity to Ranger, well, that means Druid can give alacrity now, which is interesting, seeing as Druid is quite good. We actually saw this with Grace of the Land. There's a fascinating example here. So Grace of the Land, it was considered to be really, really overpowered, right? Because you could give like a massive damage buff to your team while also doing healing and applying other boons. And they were like, okay, great. We're going to replace that with Might. And that's going to be a nerf to Druid. And it was in the sense that Druid contributed less to overall DPS, but it was actually a massive buff to Druid and made Druid far more oppressive than it was before. Because now, you can now use your Druid to apply Might, and you need 25 Might, so Druid essentially became even more powerful than it was before because of this boon. If you then slap Alacrity on top of that as well, as part of Ranger's baseline kit, then you have like a Giga build. It's a lot like Firebrand now, and Firebrand is a very scary offender, I think, of 5-player dominance that's going to get even more insane. We could talk for hours about all the winners and losers of this patch, but Firebrand is pretty outrageous in a 5-player context, and that's going to it's going to obviously essentially get massively buffed because everything else is getting nerfed. Druid, 5 target is now, from 10, boom, massive nerf. Tempest, massive nerf, right? Firebrand, just having a good time, right? Just enjoying it, watching the fireworks there, and essentially getting way stronger, even though it's already very dominant in the meta, because it isn't suffering any of these vicious attacks on its target cap.
Do we actually know yet if Might is going from 10-man to 5-man as well?
Oh, it's going to 5.
Oh, yeah.
Is it? I feel like Might has just barely been mentioned in this whole discussion recently.
Nope,
Would make
it's
sense to put
5.
it on 5-man though. Yeah, as for like the whole change though, I'm kind of excited. I'm part of me is just excited to like see everything get shaken up again. You know, like it's been such a long time that we've been in this like fire brigades meta, as some people call it. And again, like the whole Miracom thing, I understand why people are scared of going back to the old situation where you have like one chrono, you have one druid in every subgroup. I feel like with all the different new specs and all the different new builds, that's of course there will still be one ideal combination that lots of groups are gonna run. But I feel like we're just having a lot more variety, just a lot more possibilities. Of course, always one possibility is gonna be the best one. One composition is gonna dominate, but it's interesting to me that they're blowing everything wide open, and suddenly there's so many possibilities, and it feels like there's space for all of these new elite specs to come in and actually be useful, and actually not just be worse than the pop fire specs that we've got. So I don't know. I'm quite excited about all of this. It sounds pretty darn fantastic to me.
I agree. I think that a lot of people were complaining that about and being scared or worried or again threatening to uninstall because they don't like the change. But I think for players that actually enjoy the game and enjoy theory crafting, like any shakeup it's a puzzle to solve. It's something to figure out. It's a challenge. It's an obstacle to overcome. And if you don't like that, then I like question like your entire motive of like of playing the game. Like if you don't like it, like the experimentation phase and I heard this guild was using this here. Oh wow, that's cool. We should try that. What if we did this here? Like if you don't like that whole phase of like learning a new meta, then like that's just lame. Like I have like just total disrespect for that mindset.
I agree. I mean, I think balance shakeups are content, right? Like they are content. It is exciting to have new ways to play the game and to have new strategies that you can try. I think that's a really core component of keeping an MMO exciting. Or any game really, right? Any like long-term game, you need different things to happen, right? Like to shake things up a little bit. Now, the key is that you've got to do that relatively often, which ANet have said they're trying to do every 3 months or so. But yeah, I do really want to hit
every
on this.
Summer.
Yeah, I really want to hit this. Actually, is that I love that ANet is willing to make big changes. Like this, look, this is good. Here's my hot take. Everyone in the community has been asking ANet to make big changes for a long time, and they're actually doing it, right? Like these changes that were discussed in this post are massive. Okay, and yeah, there is a delay on the first big patch, but come on, guys, it's EOD, right? You know, we already know this expansion is rushed, so I get it. It sucks, but I get it. It might mean that we have like the first 6 months being quite imbalanced and quite amusing, but hey, you know, that's fun, right? That is a good time. Right? Only how could there is to play this game stupid? Well, that's the thing. The good news is that that's not what Nike said, right? He was saying that, you know, like you can play different ways. You don't have to figure it out. Someone will for you. Don't worry. Like, you know, you don't need to be in Mega Theory Crafter to play these things. You're just going to have to, you know, pick it up and learn something new afterwards, but which honestly is fun, right? That's exciting, but yeah, I really do appreciate that ArenaNet is willing to make big changes. Like, I don't agree with everything they're doing here. I think there are going to be some serious balance issues that are going to be as a result of this 5-target change. But I do think that changing things and modifying the game is something that needs to happen a lot more of, right? Okay, a lot more indeed. Yeah.
It also just feels a bit like someone else used this term before we went live, but it feels a bit like reverse power creep. Suddenly it feels like you'll have to make a lot more trade-offs. You can't just like suddenly do alacrity for 10 people. You have to be a little bit more tactical about like getting all these boons in your team instead of just getting one person to cover absolutely everything. And I think that's good as well. Like all of the raid bosses and all of the fractals, it feels like everything has just gotten so easy now. We've all like settled into this meta. Everyone has gotten their meta builds. And just like I'm excited for stuff to be a little bit more challenging again. To actually like have to think about the group competition and actually have to like consider like, oh, I could maybe do this thing, could maybe do this thing. And also just like I think even when people figure out what the meta is, when people figure out the most efficient tactics available, I think everything's gonna be a bit harder. Just because these boons are gonna just be way less powerful being 5-man instead of 10-man. That's exciting to me.
It is exciting, yeah. Like, the game has been ridiculously power creep for a long time, and it makes it difficult for certain things to compete with builds, right? Like, the builds are very oppressive because of how strong they are, and if you buff everything to that level, it's just going to make it insanely overpowered. So this is certainly step one in massively reducing the overall power creep in the game. I do actually have some concerns about this. I'm a little cynical about this to an extent, because I do think it actually makes specifically raids harder. Actually, like, strike missions, they're going to be tuned very easily, I think, so I don't think it's relevant there. Like, they won't be, the normal modes are not going to be hard. I don't think so. The challenge modes will be, but the normal modes will probably be pretty easy. But what does concern me a little bit is that you're going to need to have more specialized roles, right? Because, you don't have 10 target anymore, so you're going to need people doing more than one thing. And also, you just have people doing more than one thing, right? And in general, hybrid builds are a little bit harder to play than a Holy Trinity style build. People already struggle with the game, so I think this is actually going to be a pretty big step up in difficulty on executing some of these encounters and playing some of these builds, particularly if they plan on stripping back some of this stuff. If you compare Harbinger to Firebrand, Firebrand has a million more tools than Harbinger, right? So they're probably going to look at stripping down some of this stuff and making it not quite as powerful, from Path of Fire to EOD. So that's a pretty interesting proposition, I think. But if the thing is, that's the other side of my concern. I'm also really worried that they won't nerf the current builds for a long time until the summer patch, because if they don't, then the EOD specs are not going to be very popular. There'll be a few exceptions to that, maybe, but not that many. For example, no one's going to play Harbinger instead of Firebrand, right? Like, it's just worse. It's going to do maybe about the same amount of damage, but with a billion times less utility. And so on. You can go through a lot of these things, right? Like, Catalyst is kind of the same. Mechanist is actually a little bit more borderline, I think. Spectre is, again, the same thing. Yeah, you can do Alacrity and damage, but then you could just play Rev instead, right? And that's probably going to work out a little bit better for you overall, particularly if you're playing, like, the Condi variant there as well. So I do think they need to look at this stuff very, very carefully, because they've kind of pre-balanced all the Ender Dragon specs, but they haven't done that with Path of Fire yet. So I hope they do a lot. Like, I hope on EOD launch, there's a pretty significant set of changes to things outside of that, although it doesn't actually seem that way. So I think there could be a few
issues. I hope so, but I don't think it'll be with the launch.
Yeah.
I think it'll be in summer.
It's a good time to do it. You got to smuggle in. Everyone's going to be too focused on the launch of the expansion to hear the Firebrands crying that they lost Aegis on their heal skill.
Yeah, I can see that happening. I definitely can. Because that's one of the...
I saw a very interesting video recently from someone talking about like balancing with like utility, utility being a part of it. I'm not sure who made that video, but
good video.
Yeah, that was pretty
sounds good.
Do we actually know if we know that like the reworks of banners and spirits are not coming with launch, but they're coming with the summer patch. Do we know if like the 10-man to 5-man stuff, do we know if that's coming at launch? Or is that also going to be in the summer patch?
No, that's coming at launch, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's launch.
Right. That's good.
But banners and spirits will still be 10-man.
Yeah. That would be a big difference though. Like, just giving the EOD specs a little bit of a chance at the start.
Yeah, and I think there are going to be some more changes too, right? Bear that in mind. Like we saw the beta version, but they'll probably have iterated further with some of the numbers, some of the design, maybe added, reworked some skills, added some more boons here and there, right? Whatever. So we don't see their final form yet. So hopefully they've kind of taken that into consideration.
Right.
One last thing with the mirror comp is one thing that was super oppressive about the mirror comp was that you needed 2 druids, 2 warriors, and 2 chronos, and there was literally only one viable DPS class.
Tempest.
Yes. So the comp was, and that was at every boss. It wasn't like, at this boss you can run something else. Like it was like a huge deal when people started using Staff Daredevil at Zera because it was like slightly better than Tempest at Zera. So it was like, oh my god, there's a boss where you can play something other than Ellie. And like even then, you couldn't have everyone do it because you needed someone to like clear the shards, and like Staff Tempest was really good at that, and Daredevil was not. So like, but the point is, I don't think that is going to be the same problem because you're not going to need 2 druids, you're not going to need 2 warriors. You probably will only need like one chrono. I mean, who knows how role compression will be, and the DPS will be kind of like bring whatever you want. Like I'm sure like for speed clears, there'll be an optimal DPS class to take at every boss. But like for the most part, it'll just be like, you join the group, you say DPS, you ping your KP or whatever, and it doesn't really necessarily matter what you're playing. So I don't think the fear of the returning to the battle days where like it was 2 warriors, 2 druids, 2 chronos, 4 Ellies is ever going to come back. It'll be much more open than that ever was.
I think ArenaNet's aware of this, and people definitely understand why Mirror Comp existed. Mirror Comp didn't exist because everything was 5 target. Mirror Comp existed exactly because there was no alternative at the time. I don't know. Look, I feel like to all the young people, the younglings on the stream right now, on Heart of Thorn's launch, the only build that could apply quickness and alacrity was Chrono. If you wanted it, you had no choice. It was that or nothing. You had nothing else, right, for that. That's why there was a mirror comp. And Warrior was kind of like the might source thing, right? Like Druid was kind of the only healer. Like Tempest hadn't really been fully fleshed out. You could play heal Tempest, but it wasn't the same as playing a Druid at that particular moment.
Didn't have Grace of the Land, so it was pretty much shit.
Very, very different. Right, quickness or alacrity, right? Yeah, rather, yeah, that's a better way of saying it. Yeah, you couldn't get any of those. You couldn't get quickness or alacrity without playing Chronomancer. And yeah, ArenaNet don't want everyone running double warrior either, which is probably why they left batters at 10 targets. But I also like that people go, oh yeah, mirror comp. But guys, have you not seen raid comps? Everyone plays Chrono, Firebrand, Rev, Druid, and a warrior. Right, you kind of already have a comp. It's not a mirror, but it's very set, right? It's very, very kind of locked in. Like this is what people play in more or less every group in the pug scene, right? Yeah, you might see like a scrapper here and there sometimes, right? But you're going to see this same base, like basic comp emerge everywhere. Like this type of play is inevitable, right? Like, and what ArenaNet is trying to do is just make the flexibility of that template increase by adding quickness to loads of things, adding healing to loads of things, adding alacrity to loads of things, right? And that means that you can kind of slot them in and mix and match very easily, which in theory should be an overall very, very good thing, right? I mean, players are always going to gravitate to whatever combination is going to give them the best results. But ArenaNet's goal here, and I think it's a very noble goal, is to try and give as many options that will work and have those options be about the same, right? About as effective as each other, so that players can essentially, if you want to play NG, you can basically always play NG. Right? If you want to play Ellie, you can always play Ellie. You want to play Necro, you can always play Necro if you want to. And I do not think there is really much of a risk of a mirror composition really arriving here. Like, I think that the only slightly scary thing, weirdly enough, is like the return of Boon Chrono, because again, it does have that roll compression, and players very heavily value roll compression. But that's not like the only way you can do it, right? Healbrand, for example, is going to compress healing and quickness together and loads of other boons. Chrono doesn't do that, right? Like Chrono will still be like a tank, quickness and alacrity and a little bit of damage and loads of utility, but it doesn't like have anything else, right?
It's going to be like Chrono and Druid in one 5-man sub, and then like Healbrand and like probably Renegade in the other sub, you know, that way, like, but, and it depends, like, it might actually be better to keep Druid Spirits 10-man. Like, honestly, from a balance perspective, like, it might be better to keep Druid Spirits 10-man, just because it doesn't force as rigid a comp, or even have the potential. Like, because I think like what's going to end up happening is the optimal number of Druids is either going to be 2 or it's going to be 0 once spirits are changed. That it'll either be 2 or 0, and that's troubling.
But that's not what ANet's are aiming for, right? They're not aiming for, like,
sure.
Optimal,
They're aiming for, hey, we need a healer. Put healer on the LFG, and whatever person joins goes, oh, I'm a healer, and you have a healer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it in theory, it does make like pugging like a teeny tiny bit harder, but let's think about it. Not that much harder. Like the big change here is actually alacrity. A lot of boons are semi 5 target right now. So again, let's kind of think about that composition. Like, what's the comp right now? Like, you know, you're running Chronomancer for quickness in one subgroup, then you have a heal Firebrand in the other for healing in that subgroup, and you also have quickness and some other stuff like Aegis and stuff. Then you're going to run a Druid for your 10 target might, 10 target protection, all that kind of stuff. Spirits. Then you're going to have your Revenant, right, for alacrity probably, or Mirage or whatever, for 10 target alacrity. And then your 5th player is the Warrior. So you have 5 players kind of locked in with what you need now. All this does is kind of moving that to 6 out of 10 are going to be locked in, because you're going to need another alacrity source. Like, that's actually the big change here, is the alacrity. Everything else was kind of already there and overlapping. For sure. I think the big concern here, I mean, we mentioned this before, I don't want to go into it too much, like specifics aren't that important because who knows. The big offender here is going to be Heal Firebrand, for sure, because Heal Firebrand has a lot of things on it that are kind of obsolete because of 10 target, but now won't be. For example, like, Heal Firebrand can do stuff like protection, right? It can do regen, it can do swiftness, it can do fury, it can do quickness, it can do might, right? That's kind of irrelevant now, or quite a lot of that is irrelevant now, because the Druid's doing it, or the Tempest is doing it, because it affects both subgroups. Now that's not the case. Now Firebrand is the god, because it has this absurd roll compression. Because not only are you compressing quickness with healing, you're compressing quickness with healing, with might, with fury, with swiftness, with protection, with Aegis, with stability, with regeneration, with god tier utility, and also with tanking at the same time. Like, there's a reason why Firebrand dominates in Fractals so hard. It's because it really is the ultimate complete package of a build. It does everything. All in one go. That is the big elephant in the room. So honestly, I'd be very scared if I was a Firebrand main right now, because I think ArenaNet know that.
I think that's just going to be like the challenge. Like, you know, you can have like 7 different classes that can provide alacrity or something, but if one of them has like way more utility than the other, then lots of people are going to play that one specifically. Also, just like with Alacrigate itself, like, you know, we've got like the Ventari bubble, we've got like the huge staff CC, we've got the stability and everything. It's going to be pretty tough to compete with that. So I 100% agree. I think on End of Dragons launch day, there might be a bit of a Path of Fire spec apocalypse happening, which honestly is probably the right way to go here, because it's going to be very hard for the new specs to compete otherwise.
Speaking of Path of Fire or End of Dragons launch, I have a hot take. Spectre is going to be the most hated class in Pugs.
Oh yeah,
bar
it's
none,
hard to play.
It's hard to play.
Yep.
To do like good damage is not like intuitive necessarily. To do like good support is not intuitive, and the average Spectre player, I mean, they're going to be they're going to be finishing their crayon box, eating it specifically, and trying to join Pugs, and they're going to be doing no damage and no boons, and they're going to get kicked. And it's going to be great. I'm going to be there for it.
Gonna be there with a big bucket to soak up
But-
the tears.
But the irony is that like Spectre is has like the most insane upside. Like since we're talking about role compression, like it has the potential to be like insane upside and be like arguably the best class in the End of Dragon specs when in the hands of a good player.
You're really trying to rile people up, Nike, today, huh? You're here for blood.
That was barely a hot take. That was like complete fact.
It's just like the sum, right? The accumulation of the tea time, right?
Yeah,
It's just,
yeah, exactly. I mean, I was taking a nice nap and I had to cut it short to come on this tea time. So if I'm gonna come here, if I'm suffering, then I'm gonna raise some other people's pulses. That's how it goes.
Do you think we'll get any more End of Dragon spec bombs though? Like, do you think we'll get any more big changes before they come out? Because they did this like really big patch before the final beta, right? I'm kind of expecting some of these specs to still get like big reworks, especially like Untamed, which a lot of people aren't happy with right now. I don't know. I think they might actually do a lot of stuff still.
I don't think they have the bandwidth to do big changes because, I mean, I guess after the end of beta 4, the game like development was done. Like, so they couldn't like scrap anything and start over. Like they could do big number changes, but I don't think they could go, oh, we don't like this mechanically, we're going to like rebuild it from the ground up. That is just not happening.
No, I mean, maybe not like rebuilds from the ground up, but, you know, stuff like Willbender getting Alacrity out of nowhere. I think they can still...
Yeah, you could just like delete the word Alacrity and add like Vigor, like in that
Exactly.
in that line on the spreadsheet or database or whatever.
It's interesting. I would like them to drop information before the game goes live, but I don't think they will. I think they'll drop it for everyone to figure out on the day, or maybe like they'll have release notes on the day with what's going on. Will they change anything else in a big way? I would hope so. I definitely think that there need to be a few changes. I think some of them are just, there are big design problems. I hate the Harbinger Grandmaster traits. They're terrible. Like you just pulse stuff while you're in Shroud. That is lame. That is ridiculously lame. You know, I don't like passive stuff in the game. Okay, you know, this is where like I start debating Nike at this point, I guess. But I really don't like it. I think pulsing stuff is just very uninteractive, particularly for a GM trait. I mean, come on, what are we doing with that? And there's a few things across the board there that definitely need some work. But I'm not sure if things are going to be radical, because things weren't super radically different between the first beta and the second one, or like the final beta, I guess.
Right.
A few things got hit with a hammer, like Untamed, like got changed a lot, right? Like it got semi reworked almost with the way it worked. But most things were more or less the same with a few added bonuses. So I think that we've kind of seen a pretty finalized form of a lot of the elite specializations.
Yeah.
Right, makes sense.
I hope they don't add any CC to Blade Sworn.
Okay, so you don't have to use it. You just
So
don't
that
want
way
to
I
use
don't
it.
have to use it. I don't want to use it, and I'm not going to use it. And when I join a pug on Blade Sworn,
You only DPS.
I will never CC. I will drop the banners under protest.
Yeah.
I'll do that. I will deign to do that, but I will never CC.
You can just like get some tape and put it over like where the CC bar would be on your screen.
Yeah,
you
there's no
can't
point
see
in
it.
me looking.
Yeah.
No, I need to see it because I need to be able to still flame the rest of the group for not CCing. Like,
Wow.
come on, CC, while I'm charging my dragon trigger. Yep, that's how it's gonna go.
Inks,
Samurog's gonna kill him. Better
What do you-
CC.
what do you think about the situation, Inks? Okay,
I
let us in.
I don't think there's going to be any major changes, like big ones. And if there is, then they really should do a blog post before launch. If not, if it's minor little tweaks or whatever, which I do expect, then just launch it that way and let people figure out the minor tweaks.
Okay.
They might do like they might actually release the whole patch notes for the expansion a day early.
That would be awesome.
Right.
Oh, that would be so good.
That would be awesome.
And that would have, and that could have like the profession changes within it.
Oh, that would be fire.
Build the hype. Build the hype.
Were there like patch notes for like Heart of Thorns and Pathfire? I actually don't even remember. Was there even a change?
There was definitely patch notes, but I don't remember like if they came out early or not.
Right.
You know, do you know what? Do you want to know a conspiracy theory? This is a conspiracy.
Ooh.
Okay. I think they deliberately, because a lot of people said that it's weird that they kind of expose all these changes about Mystic Coins and balance really early. I think this is intentional. They did it so everyone gets big mad now, as opposed to big mad when the expansion drops. Because these
all
changes
the uninstallers uninstall now,
Yeah.
and we have a happy expansion launch.
Well, no. Then on launch day, when all your friends are playing, you'll be like, "Well, I guess I need to reinstall now."
Exactly, and you have to do it. So you know, people their anger is worn off by the time the expansion comes out. So think about it: if they're going to nerf stuff like nerf POF, then they'll also do the same, right? They'll drop notes like a week before, so that everyone's like, "Whoa, they butchered my favorite build. It's been destroyed."
That would be
And
smart.
then it's worn off, right? Then they're back in. They're reinstalling the game at that point. They love it.
Sounds good.
It could happen. It definitely could be. There's a possibility there, but we haven't got any confirmation information. I mean, look, even this post was totally out of the blue. Like, no one had any idea this was coming. It was on a Friday after a Jade Bot live stream. It just exploded onto the scene. It was wild, absolutely insane.
I think it was smart. On their part
to catch people by surprise a little bit.
Yeah, because you'll have at least a little bit of hype for the Jade Bot from some people anyway. Maybe more hype depending on how much you like the Jade Bot, and then you're going to hit him with some bad news. So it equalizes a little bit. Unless you're hardcore fractal god whatever, then you're just going to be salty and uninstalled. But you can't really save those people anyway.
Yeah, it wasn't even bad news for most people.
Yeah, I think for most people, they're gonna get richer. Because I think most people don't do fractal CMs, and they're gonna do strikes now. They're gonna get mystic coins. They're gonna like have loads of conversions, like if they weren't doing fractals at all before. Of course, like the fractal CM scene isn't happy, because I think a lot of the more like the people who don't do fractal CMs, I think for most of them, this is gonna be like more goals in their bank, basically.
Yeah, that's good.
Plus, I mean, there's a good chance ANet will cave and add
Ooh,
like some
do you
welfare
think so?
mystic coins to CMs. Yeah, the outcry, they'll cave.
Really?
How long did it take for them to reinstate dungeon loot?
They didn't.
Not that it mattered, but
They added the achievements, right?
they added the
yeah.
dungeon frequenter thing.
Dungeons are pretty good though. Apparently,
Yeah,
they're very high
never,
gold per hour.
They are pretty high. Well, especially if you do what Snowcrows does in dungeons.
Oh, really?
Oh, did. They don't do it anymore. That was super high gold per hour.
I think they might change some stuff, because again, there's this nice principle that if content is harder, you want better rewards.
Mm-hmm.
I think they might put in a little bit, like instead of having like 3 random mystic coins, you might get 1 random mystic coin or something. I think they might like walk back a little bit and like do something to like address all the outrage right now, but I don't think they'll go back entirely
No.
make it back the way it was.
No,
Nah.
like it'll be a pity. It'll be like
Yeah.
a pity mystic coin.
Or they'd do it a different way. They'd give you a more account value or something, as opposed to gold. I think they're very careful about adding stuff like that you can sell to other players or like get gold per hour. So wallet gold. I think they're really cautious about you being able to do that, is what I get from all this. They want you to have things that you can't necessarily trade or reward you with things that you can't trade. So they won't go too hard on that. But I think they might add something to CMs. A little bit, or maybe they'll nerf tier 4. Maybe they'll slightly nerf it, just slowly bring it down over time somehow. Because they're still very, very strong. Although I guess it's only once per day, so it's not that bad, I guess. For the time investment, you've got to put a good amount of time in, and you can only do it once a day. Like, I think, you know, the real deal is going to be like, how are they going to nerf like the fractal farms, right? Like, because that is actually ridiculous. Like, those ones are insane.
The way I look at it is, if anyone hates themselves enough to do like the Aether Blade farm endlessly for hours and hours, you deserve to get paid. You deserve to make the best gold per hour in the game, because that is mind-numbing grind content. Like, you're playing Guild Wars 2 as if it was like Diablo or Path of Exile, and if you play this game like that, then hey, you deserve it, because it's your sanity that you're giving up.
Love it. Buff it. Give me even more for tediousness.
Does this also mean that if you are crazy enough to have like 40 alt accounts and log into them every day, that you deserve the
Yes,
rewards
exactly,
as well?
you do.
Yeah, I like alt accounts. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people think, well, I mean, I don't really get into this too much. A lot of people think Mystic coins are going to go up because of this, but I think Lara was right earlier. I think you're going to see it probably go down, because like way more people are going to have access to strikes. I think people overestimate how many people do CMs. I am pretty sure that the challenge modes are some of the least popular content in the entire game.
Especially.
Yeah, definitely 100. I think not a lot of people do 100. If you look at the stats on efficiency, it's not looking good with how many people do this stuff. And bear in mind, that's obviously massively overrepresented, because people who are hardcore are going to more likely to be on efficiency, right? So I don't think they're very popular. Like, adding all these Mystic coins in with strike missions, yeah, it's going to be a big deal. You're going to see a lot more of these things flowing around.
Do you think efficiency knows, is it in the API, like when someone's last login was?
Oh, I don't.
Like, I feel like efficiency should filter out accounts that haven't logged in over a year.
I don't think it does.
Yeah,
I know it doesn't, but I think it should.
Okay.
Because it skews these perspectives, because there's accounts that have been on efficiency for 6 years or 7 years that haven't logged in 5 years, and they're making it look like people aren't necessarily doing the new content. But if you filter out the inactive accounts, the percentage of active players who have done CM 100 would look higher than if you take into account like people who joined efficiency in, like 2014 and then haven't played since.
Exactly.
Now, my big concern though, and we already talked about this a little bit, but I like fractal CMs, especially 100. I think that is literally some of the best content in the game. And I don't actually do them because of the Mystic coins. Actually, for a while, I didn't even know they dropped Mystic coins, but I just did them because I thought they were fun. My biggest concern...
Playing for fun? What's wrong with you?
What?
My biggest concern, though, by far, is just that, I can just, like, get on LFG and find, like, 5 different groups doing CMs right now. That is what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned that is going to go down. I don't think it would disappear entirely, though, because some people are going for stuff like Fractal Gold. You do still get some rewards. I wonder how big of an impact this is going to have on the LFG. Is like CM going to disappear entirely, or is it still going to stick around, but just smaller? Is it going to stay the exact same? I don't think it would stay the exact same. That is what I'm really interested in, to like see the impacts. Because I'm gonna do strikes. I'm excited for those, so I'll get my Mystic coins. I don't care about that, but I just want to keep playing this content. That's what I'm scared of.
What I want to know, and I need to go and do research on this, is actually how much of a nerf this was. That's the big question here, right? Like, how much is doing a fractal challenge mode worth, and how much is it worth now? Because I have to say, I don't know the answer to that question. Now, obviously, it's down by, let's say you get on average per challenge mode. Yeah, you get 6 gold over 3 CMs. So you're losing 2 gold per CM, right? And that's significant because, these things are pretty quick, right? You can do, say, Nightmare Fractal in 15 minutes, right? And that will be a chill run, right? Like, you can do it quicker than that, but let's go. 15 to 20 gold to 10 to 15 gold. Yeah, so it's a pretty significant nerf, but that's still pretty good, weirdly enough, right? That's not actually horrible in compared to like other things in the game if you can do them efficiently. Like, let's suppose that you do the 3 challenge modes, and that if you're relatively hardcore, right? You're pumping. You can get all of that done in half an hour, right? Realistically, it will be less than that. That's still not horrible, right? To do. Like, yeah, sure. Is it as good as tier 4s? Probably not. Is it as good as some other things in the game? Probably not, but it has a lot of other things attached to it. Like, this is what I really wanted to hit on with people kind of being a little bit too invested in liquidity, and not worried about other things that you can potentially obtain, right? Like, there's other reasons to do fractal challenge modes except for liquid gold, right? You might want to unlock all the, the unique skins there. You might want to high roll for the infusion stuff. You might want to be getting like ascended gear, fractal god, right? All that sort of thing. I do think it makes it less appealing, but it might be because like the true value of these things is a little bit obfuscated. Like, do you know a really good example of this actually? I think people still think this, by the way. People think that PvP is really rewarding, like ranked PvP. It's not, and it never has been. People just think it is because it gives you liquidity. Like, it gives you gold, right? You get gold from doing the chest, and it's like, oh, 20 gold? Whoa, that's crazy. But it actually isn't. It's bad. I did the numbers on it, and you get around like 10 to 12 gold an hour by playing ranked PvP. That's not good. But people think it's insane because it has liquidity. This is a serious problem that people have with this game, is that they really value something that you can trade for something else, which is true, right? Because it does have utility, right? There's a certain degree of utility that you get from being able to buy things, but it's not the be-all and be-all end-all, right? There are other things in the game that are valuable, and that's kind of the core yeah, that includes everything, Knuckles. That's reward tracks too, yeah. Reward tracks and the pip stuff. And also the game win reward too. That's everything calculated for it. It's not actually that good. Queue times don't help, but even if the queue times were shorter, it still wouldn't be that good, actually. And this is kind of an issue because the game's economy is based around stuff like account value and obtaining items and things that you can't necessarily trade. But players don't seem to engage with that. And in a way, I have to hold ANet responsible for that because, they should maybe do a better job of conveying that to the player, that gold is not the big thing. It's stuff like currencies and materials and account unlocks and ascended items and untradables that generate value. But it's hard to do that, right? The way the game is set up is a lot more complicated, I think, than other games. And it's managing player perception compared to the reality is actually a problem, is actually very, very difficult. Because even though these challenge modes, they're not horrible. They've been nerfed pretty heavily, right? They've been nerfed heavily. But they're still going to be profitable to do. And it's still probably pretty time efficient if you do them well, to do this on a daily basis. But and how do you get players to recognize that?
Almost everything in game has some sort of limiter, in that you can only do fractals once per day. And I mean, you can do more, but the rewards go to basically 0. You can do raids once a week, but then the rewards go to basically 0. So you finish your daily T4s. What are you going to do? Like, are you going to go run Silverways? No, the type of player is not going to do that. That the hardcore fractal players, like, you're still going to do the CMs, because what else are you going to do? You've already done raids for the week. You've already done your strikes for the day. You could AFK, but that makes you 0 gold per hour. Like it's still the best option for your time if you have the time to do it. So it's what people will do.
I really hope you're right about that. That sounds pretty good.
I think you can both be right, though. Like, I think you raise a very valid concern here, which is that the perception will shift. And the perception is more important than the reality in a lot of ways. Great example is Tempest in PvE, actually. People perceive Tempest to be very, very weak, right? For PvE, even though it isn't. That's not just, like, arguable. That is strictly untrue. Tempest is actually an extremely powerful option for PvE, for like raids and strikes and so on. In a lot of ways, it will outperform Druid even. It will out-heal Firebrand, no sweat. It will crush it. Eat it for breakfast. And it will out-heal Druid and provide better boons than Druid. People think that it's not good in Fractals, where honestly it can perform pretty well in Fractals too. But the question is that how do you get players to engage with the underlying reality rather than their own perception of that reality. And I think that's kind of like what you're attacking there, Lara, is exactly that. Like, players will engage with it less because they perceive it to be incredibly nerfed and, you know, not worth doing, right? It's why you typically see a small nerf will make people just abandon something, or a relatively small buff, well, everyone's going to pile on, even if it's not that much of a big deal. It doesn't matter because it's like, oh, buff, go, 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 go. Oh, nerf, terrible, right? Here's amazing example. So, do you guys remember when Scourge got buffed because of the Torment change and stuff like that? They nerfed Demonic Law after that from 33% more Torment damage to 25%. And when they did that, my chat was full of, oh my god, is Scourge terrible now? Is Scourge destroyed? Is it annihilated? Oh my god, unplayable build now. Oh, TeaTime, please tell me it's okay. I don't want to delete my Necro. But it was nothing, right? It was like an 8% modifier got removed, right? From, you know, obviously Torment's very important on Scourge, but it's not the only thing Scourge does. Like, Scourge has burning, bleeding, bit of poison as well, right? And you still have Torment, right? Like, but yeah, people freaked out about this change. They're like, oh, it's unplayable, it's awful, right? But no, that's just not the case. And I think that's the other really interesting side of this that ArenaNet has to deal with, is how do they communicate things to the player base and get them to understand it?
If they figure out the answer to that, they could tell central banks, because that's one of the biggest, like, in economics, like, the expectation of inflation or the expectation of deflation is more powerful than actually experiencing it. Because if you expected next year that there's going to be big inflation, that would change how you behave monetarily now, which will then actually cause the inflation. So if everyone in the economy believes that there's going to be deflation next week, it will indeed be a self-fulfilling prophecy, because people will behave in that way. So you run the thing where perception becomes reality simply because it creates, like, the spiral of, like, the feedback loop, I guess would be the term for it. And I think so managing people's perceptions about the economy is, like, the key thing that the central bank does. Like, they can only do so much with, like, money supply. But when it comes to, like, video games, it's just like, it's the same situation. You got to manage expectations.
It's true.
I guess this kind of gives a solution then, doesn't it? For, like, wanting fractal CMs to stay active. We just need to, like, pretend that they'll like have massive rewards, even if it's not true. And then people keep doing them even if it's not true.
Or give them like
we need a rumor. We need some fake news here, I think, you know, just to change the community's perception.
Yeah. Or give a tiny buff, right? Like a little buff afterwards. So you kind of you like slam it. They give it a little buff, like, oh yeah, it's okay now, hooray! Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah, what if you always rolled 0 mystic coins? Then there's no change for you. What if you were
insanely unlucky?
You were perma unlucky and you only got 0? You rolled 0 every CM you did. This is just a straight non-change.
Yeah,
I really don't like that.
You know what's wild though? I find that, like, with, like, dungeons, they nerfed, like, the dungeon rewards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they added back that achievement, which was actually pretty good, the dungeon frequencer. But it feels like dungeons never really recovers, even though they did that. It feels like that didn't really cause people to actually go back and do dungeons, even though suddenly they were pretty alright goals again.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of players that didn't ever like dungeons, and they just did
true.
it because it was good rewards. And then as soon as they were given something else that they enjoyed more to do that gave them decent rewards, they were gone anyway. And there's definitely people like me that like dungeons for the sake of dungeons. I liked what they were. But there was other people that literally only did it because it was a gold farm, and as soon as you gave them a better gold farm or a different gold farm, they were out.
Yeah, and they just never went back.
Yeah.
Yo, I wonder, like, I'm not saying this should have actually happened, okay? Just fun to think about. But, like, what if ArenaNet had never announced, like the nerf to like the mystic coins and the fractal challenge.
Just didn't tell anyone.
And everyone would just be like, "Why is my RNG so bad?" Like all the
Would
time.
anyone even notice?
And then people would like, would the outrage have been smaller?
Or they just go, yeah,
It would
it's
have been bigger.
what
later.
if they kept it 0 to 3, right? Like it's still 0 to 3, but in the rolls they added like a ton more zeros,
Yeah.
so you could still high roll 3, but instead of it being like 1 out of every 4, it would be like 1 out of every 100. So they're just like they just added a ton of zeros into the lottery.
You know,
It's kind of what they do with the Mystic Forge, right? They just add a ton of zeros in front of the precursors.
this is actually an interesting point to bring up. I saw Angels bring this up, and I do think it's actually a valid point worthy of discussion. Is the fact that removing like a component of the RNG drops from completing something, it kind of removes that like, oh, big high roll, let's go. I'm farming, I'm going big today, having a great time. Because I think this is something that Guild Wars 2 does struggle with, is having those kind of mid-level, oh, nice, got that drop, right? Strikes tried to alleviate this by adding those kind of like trash items, like you can drop like the snowflake worth 4 gold from, the Sheer Peaks Pass one, right? Like there are like these little trophies that you can get for gold, right? And Mystic Coins, like I used to do Fractal CMs, a lot. And it was like, oh, yes, boom, 3 Mystic Coins from this boss. That is amazing. I love it. You're getting a crazy, kind of medium roll. And it kind of feels good to do that. What do you guys think about removing that element of kind of excitement from potentially getting a mid to high roll that kind of makes the game just feel a little bit more rewarding inherently because of that, that exciting dynamic of maybe getting something good?
I do agree with that. I think that the solution is already in the game to that. It's like, when you're doing a map that has like the baubles and like you finish an event and you get that big 10 bauble pop and you're like, feels good. 10 baubles, 3 gold. Just add more of that. Like make some of the trash drops, like the vendor merch, like the auto sell stuff, like add more high rolls to that.
Okay.
Yeah, some RNG is fun, right? Like in a way, it's kind of, with the strike, they're moving these mystic coins to strikes. They won't be RNG, but you'll just like get them by playing. I do kind of get why that is in a way nice, because you won't get unlucky. Like you will always get rewarded. Like yesterday, I literally ran Fractal CMs and I got 0 mystic coins, which feels kind of bad. But Guild Wars 2 is kind of missing that exciting thing, when you're playing WoW or something, and then you're in a dungeon and you roll that specific item that you want, which is really exciting and it feels kind of good. It's got like upsides and downsides. It's kind of nice that in Guild Wars 2, like you just get currency, you just buy the thing you want, you don't have to keep running. But there is this sort of exciting element where you get a high roll and it feels good, and I'm not sure if removing all of it is really the right choice, because it is, like I said, it is like exciting, even if it's got some downsides as well to it. And that's actually to go full circle. That is actually something I kind of like about the Jade Bots, because they've mentioned that for like the higher components, right? You will need like random items that drop in the rolls. I believe they mentioned that. Which is kind of cool if you're just like playing End of Dragons and suddenly you get an item that's worth like 20 gold or something. I think if anything, we might actually need more of that RNG excitement, and it's kind of sad that it's gone now.
Yeah, I'd expect to see that in strike missions because we already see it in some of the current ones for sure. But yeah, and I think that is one of the weaker areas of the game. It is like that excitement about the loot, right? If everything's too consistent, it almost makes the grind seem horrible, right? Because you're just like, oh my god, I have to do this 100 days in a row to get this item, and there's no way around it. I can't get lucky. I just have to do it. My soul is dying. Which I think that that's a problem, right? For sure.
Imagine if like Chuck Exec wasn't random.
Oh
but
no!
You just got it after doing Chuck Garen like literally like 50,000 times. Nobody would even bother.
Yeah.
Like the RNG is more exciting. It's way more fun than doing it 50,000 times. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And yeah, RNG gambling is bad when it's like really impactful things that are going to be game changing, by the way. So for example, like if you have to RNG craft your legendary, this is a horrible, disgusting mechanic, right? So imagine if you go to the Mystic Forge, like, oh, I've got my Mystic Tribute, I've got my Precursor, I've got my Mastery Gift. You put it in, and Zoro says, "Hey, unlucky, buddy. Try again. That's a 20% chance, and you failed." Right? Yeah, that is horrible. That is appalling. No one wants that. Terrible mechanic. Particularly if it then consumes the items as well, which it does in some games. Not good. Yeah, that ain't fun. But like a little bit of RNG, I think is a little exciting, right? Okay, like that's fun. So for example, I think it's okay with like, I like the pity timer basically on the Doom chair, right? If you don't get the Doom chair, okay, right, 2,000 shards, bam, away you go. That's all right, okay? But because that's obviously a very extreme RNG chance, right? I've never even seen it drop.
Me neither.
I have never gotten the portal device, and I've killed Sarah like hundreds of times. Like,
wow, I've got loads of portal devices.
It's not possible.
It doesn't exist.
They just like in the code they like blacklisted my accounts from getting that drop for some reason. Don't know why.
Oh no. Inks, what do you think about RNG?
I think that I wish what Guild Wars 2 would do is, do you remember when they first started adding new skins to like the champion boxes, that whole era?
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a really exciting era for the game because people really weren't doing like champion trains and stuff like that didn't really exist. And getting those skins, especially like now they're worth next to nothing, right? But for a long time, they were worth a lot of gold. So getting those skins to drop for yourself, whether you wanted the skin or not, you could sell it for gold if you just want that, or you got yourself a pretty awesome skin. And I really think the game needs to do more of that type of RNG. And I agree with you, like for raids, the Doom chair being a big one where that can just drop and you could sell it for I don't know what it goes for now, but like you used to be able to sell it for a lot. And if you're really unlucky after, X number of tries, you can just buy it if that's really your ultimate goal for that sort of thing. So I like both systems in different types of those game modes.
Yeah,
you need like a balance between the two, right? You don't want your RNG to like ruin your day. You just want it to add a little bit of spice.
Exactly.
Just think about all of the skins they add per year to the gem store. If you just took out like five in a year and put them in the game somewhere via a champion train or Octovine or Marionette, for example, people would grind the heck out of that to try and get those skins and really bring content like that alive. And I think that kind of RNG can be really good.
End of Dragons metas needs random rare infusion drops. Or doesn't have to be an infusion, but there needs to be something to get
I'm sure there will
like,
be.
There will be. Yeah. They're gonna go hard on that for sure.
Yeah.
That's definitely
they have
true.
to.
Yeah. So we have approached the end of things. Going to wrap up a few things. I forgot to talk about this actually. I messed up. I messed up big, and don't worry, these will be pretty quick fire topics, so it's all good. But
lightning round.
It is. Yeah, it's lightning round time, gamers. Okay. But there were some pretty interesting things, little tidbits of information in the post as well. And the one I found really interesting was about the philosophy of strike missions, and I really want to hit that for sure, because they said, or Cameron said in this post, that they're going to be looking to make strike mission mechanics unavoidable, right? So you must engage with them. I really want to see what they mean by that, because this has been an issue that Guild Wars 2 raids have always had, with a few exceptions, that you can ignore mechanics. Like outside of something like Doom Greens, slap another healer on it and you can probably ignore it, right? Bone Skidder doesn't have any mechanics, just out heal everything, and so on and so on. That excites me a lot. It seems that they're actually going to fully commit to making these challenge modes. Okay, you're actually going to have to do this. You can't just muck about. It's going to have real mechanics, actual mechanics that you're going to have to do. Otherwise, it's going to kill you. I imagine it will be fairly lenient on the normal mode, and that's fine, right? That's fair. But on the challenge mode, I'm expecting these to really force you to engage with the fight, as opposed to just completely ignoring everything. So I think we could potentially see things that are actually, in a lot of respects, more challenging than raids. Because raids, they have mechanics, and they're difficult if you don't know how to do them. But once you have a certain level of almost like mechanical skill, all that you just don't engage. You just don't engage with the mechanics whatsoever. And they're so forgiving that the mechanics don't matter even if you fail them. So even if the strike missions aren't perhaps quite as tightly tuned as the current raids, they could end up being harder because you actually have to do the fight properly. I think that's an interesting thing.
It's just like they could make it where, I mean, I guess it's hard to imagine like Veil Guardian having like less tight, like
DPS
enrage timer. Yeah. But if you make it so, like, let's say you have to do the greens or the group wipes, like auto downstate or auto defeated, but you make like the green AoE a little bit bigger and you make it like you give people like an extra 2 seconds to get to them. Like that is totally a fair way to have instant kill, instant fail mechanics. I like it.
I'm a big fan of personal responsibility in a
punishes
encounter. I like it. Yeah, I think some of the more fun raid encounters are where particular players have a responsibility that has to be fulfilled, or that's it.
Yeah, like Doom Greens. That was good.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, I like it a lot as well. It's just I think sometimes people kind of like the bosses where you can skip all the mechanics because you'll get to your rewards fast and stuff. But we've got plenty of DPS golems at this point. So I just want a boss that feels different. I don't want to do another Bone Skinner. I don't want to do another Murshot's Overseer. I want the fight to feel completely different. I want it to be variety. And if you can just skip all of the mechanics, then that's kind of going to ruin it. I think actually with like Ice Boot Saga Strikes, a lot of people criticize those for being too easy. I actually think that Bone Skinner, if you do Bone Skinner with mechanics, it's a very challenging fight. But just because you can skip it, it becomes this kind of boring, not very interesting. Yeah, and there's not. I think that's part of the reason why like Ice Boot Saga Strikes, even though like Whisper of Jormak and Bone Skinner are kind of maybe at the level of some of the easier raid bosses, people just kind of dismiss them. Not as much Whisper of Jormak maybe, but especially Bone Skinner, where I think literally 75% of the community doesn't even understand the mechanic.
It's way higher than that.
Oh yeah, like most of them got no clue how it works.
Yeah, I don't understand it either.
Yeah.
So that hypes me up. That makes me feel that these fights are going to be more engaging. And also I think they can do this. I think that it's very tough to like throw people into a fight like this. It's pretty hard to like learn these mechanics the first time, especially if you're not quite with like a group of people around you and stuff. But because these strikes are gonna have 2 difficulty settings, people should
They can go hard.
Yeah, people they can do really complicated mechanics in the challenge mode because they can sort of introduce people slowly to them in their normal modes, and that makes me excited. It's gonna be more than just like doing your DPS rotation. It's gonna be actually like interesting fights, hopefully. We'll still have to see if it actually works out, though, But I hope it all works out exactly how they've described it.
Look, Big Nose Ted is coming for you, Teapot.
Oh,
He's
really?
gonna smush you.
Yeah, I know. I admit it. I've died to Big Nose Ted.
He's gonna smush you with that hammer.
Yeah,
you won't be able to avoid it.
Confessions.
This really goes into a big. I accidentally opened a massive can of worms here. Because this is kind of something that you alluded to, Lara, and it's really true. Do you know what the problem with making mechanics that actually matter is? Almost everyone in the game is very used to mechanics not doing anything in this game, and they just like the golem. It's funny, around Elitist Raiding Party 2, I was having a discussion with some of the raiders. It was a player from the video game guild Meth and Faxes. And I said, yeah, guys, look, we were just discussing the nature of raids. And I said, yeah, like the point of raids is like engaging with mechanics, right? And using your skills to counter those mechanics. And this player said something along the lines of, no, the point of raids is to turn it into a DPS golem and kill it instantly, right? And that's actually how a lot of people view the ideal state of PvE in Guild Wars 2, especially in Fractals, by the way. Like, Fractal players and even high-end Fractal players don't actually want hard content. And a lot of raiders don't want hard content either. They want content that can be broken and then completely destroyed. And moving away from that is actually going to be a bit of a shock for people. It's going to shock people big time if they stick to this. And I have to say, I really hope that ArenaNet stick to their guns here and have a very robust spine. I don't want them to add more DPS golems into the game, right? Because so many of our encounters, even some of the harder raid bosses, kind of are DPS golems, right? Yeah, and Grimjack's right here. He's pointing out Sunqua Peak. A lot of people hated it because she actually does something, right? Like, and moves around, right? And you have to actually do mechanics and do stuff. A lot of people didn't like that about that fight. Part of that was because it was a bit RNG, which is a fair criticism, by the way. It was a little bit annoying to speedrun because the boss isn't entirely predictable, I believe, with where she's going to move, which that's definitely legitimate. That's annoying, right? For sure. But, like, yeah, people didn't like the mechanical engagement is with that fight. And a lot of people don't like that with stuff like the challenge modes. I think the context was actually people were complaining about the challenge mode in ERP2, and people wanted me to say no challenge mode, and I said no, you're all doing challenge mode, you scrubs. But there you go.
And then all the players quit the game after the tournament, so
yeah, but they quit the game all the time, right? Okay, right? Like they quitting the game is like a pastime hobby for them, right? They love it. I think in general people just burn out, right? I don't think they quit the game because of that. They quit the game because like they go really, really hard on it and then just disengage from that. But yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not ideal.
It's
not
healthy
ideal
to take breaks.
It is. Except they didn't come back. Yeah, that is true. A lot of them didn't come back. But that wasn't because of that though. I mean, like, let's not muck about gamers, right? Like the hardcore PvE scene in Guild Wars 2, it's like held together with like sticks and, good feelings, right? And hope, copium, right? The game doesn't really produce that much content, so it's difficult to hold people no matter what you do, right? Like, honestly, most hardcore PvE players are looking for an excuse to quit, right?
Yeah, they took away 2 mystic coins from them, and they like threatened to quit. So like
yeah,
that's a pretty weak tether if that's what it took to push you over the edge to uninstall.
Yeah.
And more so on the point is that there's another game right now that they can play for free and experience like they'll have a new experience with the game. So threatening to quit,
game,
which threatening to quit or quitting is, tempting and easy right at the moment.
Exactly. They've been baited away, lured away.
Hardstuck.
Yeah, you think they'll be back?
In the Netherlands, everyone. You're stuck with me. They can't take me away if they don't release it here. Yeah, Lost Ark is not releasing in the Netherlands because of loot box laws over here.
Unlucky.
So we're just paying Guilds 2 instead. Hell yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
Ethical game.
Hell yeah.
We have Blackline chests here though.
Yeah.
But they're just disabled. Are they they're just probably disabled, right?
No, it's disabled in Belgium.
Yeah.
The loot box laws actually aren't that bad over here.
Yeah.
But Amazon, they just saw like, oh, there is a law. Oh, they're just not released it there. Don't want to do
That's actually a good call, Lara.
Amazon said laws. We don't adhere to any laws.
My chat has got the answer for you. Surfshark VPN. Pretend to not be from the Netherlands. Easy.
Wow, I've never heard of this. What does Surfshark VPN actually do?
Well, okay, it will simply protect your IP address with a beautiful layer of shark skin, therefore shielding your identity to the pathetic Lost Ark servers trying to deny you access to this. Oh yeah, of course, it's faux shark skin, and you can get it right now using code MightyTeapot for an insane deal. Do it right now.
The word arc is even in Surfshark.
That's true, actually.
All right.
That's well noticed. Lost shark.
My gosh.
Oh, goodness me. Yeah, and one final thing to kind of wrap up here. Little meme here, just to round out the show. We've got some new stat types coming in.
Oh, baby.
Oh yeah.
Not what I was hoping for, but what we got.
Ritualist and Dragon. I think the one people are looking at a lot is Ritualist, right? It's kind of like boon duration, but also really high condi damage with condition damage and expertise, concentration, and vitality. And then Dragon is a bit like Marauder, except precision is lower and Frosty is higher. That will have some niche usage, I think, for sure. There'll be some builds that will use that have kind of loads of crit modifiers, or maybe like using some kind of sigil to increase your crit chance or whatever, runes or whatever, like boon access. But the big one there is definitely Ritualist, and I'm gonna unleash this to you guys to discuss and get your take on it, but. First, I have to say something that I find really interesting. I think the fact that it has vitality is extremely deliberate. I think ArenaNet, and you can see this with what they did with Firebrand, with like the vitality conversion trait, and now even with the Jade Core, I think they're deliberately trying to make builds that are tankier do more damage, and to make stats that aren't just full offensive very competitive and very strong. That's their big goal here. Condi Catalyst, for example, will apply loads of those boons and potentially pump a lot of damage, right, with the expertise and condition damage. Of course, this makes Firebrand stronger. Interesting side effect there as well. But, it will also make Spectre pump as well, right, with Vitality too, scaling with the Shroud. You have boon duration for your Alacrity, and maybe even some quickness and other boons there. And you also have condition damage and expertise to do your Torment damage. This is a very interesting approach, I think, with what they're doing here. Because they're trying to assist players in learning the game, I think, in some way. Maybe I'm totally off base. Maybe you guys think I'm an idiot for saying that. But that is what I think about when I see something like this. They're trying to make non-full offensive builds perform better.
I thought the conspiracy theory part of the podcast was over.
Yeah.
now we're back into it.
I'm bringing it back. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that they did not. I don't think that they had that deep of a philosophy with the stats. I think they wanted. I think they legit wanted concentration, expertise, and condi damage on a stat set because it was like a hole in the design, and they were like, "Well, what fourth stat can we put on there?" And for much the same reason that we got vitality on our power core is because it's non-threatening. It's just like a cute stat. It's non-threatening. They were like, well, we need this stat could be busted. So let's make it let's add vitality to it. So it's the least threatening fourth stat we could have added to it. And I think I don't necessarily think that they we're looking at top-down build design. I don't think they were like, well, we need a stat for X build or X profession. Let's design a stat that would be really good for it. I think it was just more bottom up. Like, let's see what players do with it.
I think also just like not even taking into account like the conversion traits and stuff like that. I think it just kind of makes sense from like a new players coming into the game perspective. I think a bunch of people are like gonna get into End of Dragons as their first expansion. They put in stuff like in this one live stream they showed off like a heart where they were like teaching people break bars. I wonder if this is part of them going like, hey, a bunch of new people are gonna play this expansion. They're gonna get their first exotic set like from this expansion. Let's give them that vitality so that they survive and have a good time with the game, but also try to give them stats that are good at the same time. I wonder if it's kind of just meant to like get those new players to play actually useful stats instead of like having people just randomly pick up Nomad's gear or something like that.
Just like the Selly change with the starter gear as well. Really nice change, by the way. Trying to make it easier to make good decisions, right? Exactly. Is what they want to do, which it's an important part of game design. I would say, I'm sure you would say as well, as a game developer, Lara, game dev Lara.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. One day my game will actually come out, and it's gonna be a while, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I'm gonna play through it I'm gonna play through it.
Hell yeah.
I'm gonna roast it. It's a terrible game. Horrible.
Wow.
Okay, yeah.
I have a hot
Wow.
take about these new stats. Remember
What's the hot
how
take?
after EOD, or not EOD, after POF, everyone was like, have you tried grieving? Have you tried grieving?
Mhm.
Have you tried grieving?
Yeah.
I think Dragon is going to be the new grieving. It's going to be like, have you tried Dragon? How about Dragon stats in this power build? It's going to be like everybody's going to be like, oh, you're playing Weaver. Have you tried Dragon stats? Like it's going to be like every time people in chat see someone playing a power build, they're going to ask about Dragon. And the answer is Dragon, not good. Not good.
Maybe not quite as likely though, because it's not full offensive. But yeah, sorry, go ahead, Inks.
I tend to I think in reality I agree with Nike that it's like a bottom up perspective for them, but I want to believe in the teapot theory that it's top down and they have specific builds that they want you to make with these stats, and there'll be, I think in overall usage, I think they're very niche, but I want to believe in the top down, but I don't know if I can get there.
Well, I think they've been trying to do this for a while. They added like a bunch of vitality conversion traits to the game, like things will convert vitality into extra damage and so on. I think this is intentional because it's obviously, yeah, you're not going to have like defensive stats be optimal all the time or maybe even ever potentially. But I think they're trying to make the gulf between like the full offensive builds and the slightly more defensive builds a little smaller. And by adding stat types like this that are pretty darn efficient and still have some good tankiness built into them, I think that's the goal. And Sally's in that direction as well, although Celestial is arguably very, very overpowered. But, don't mind that. Just ignore World versus World roaming. Pretend it doesn't exist.
I do actually agree. The thing is, though, I'm not much of a fairy crafter. I go to like the smart people's website and I just copy their builds. Check out builds on Hardstuck, by the
Kitty
way.
Marks
Nice.
enjoyer.
Yeah.
Same.
No, but whenever I would like look at these trades, like very often in the past year, also the new specs, it's go like, oh, this skills of vitality. Well, that's useless. I'm definitely never gonna use that one. Like suddenly it feels like they might actually maybe be slightly more relevant and actually like useful and not terrible. So I feel like there is some strategic decision making there. I feel like that's a link. Suddenly putting in this vitality stats, having lots of vitality traits.
I'm glad
one
you're
thing that's
on board
interesting.
the conspiracy.
One thing that's interesting in Guild Wars 2 that a lot of people don't really consider is that if you have 100% crit chance, power and ferocity are totally interchangeable. Like one power is worth one ferocity. Almost always. Like there are a few extreme outliers where it's like slightly different, but not much. So in theory, dragons could be higher DPS just because it has more total power and ferocity combined than Berserker. But again, you'd have to have a class that provided 40. Your base crit with dragon would be 41% crit chance. So you'd have to, with banner and fury, like you'd have to get a lot of crit from your build, and they've really been slowly chipping away at that. Like Reaper's like probably one of the few that has enough. Like it used to be Ellie, but they've like actually chipped away at that. Like Weaver runs Assassin's Pieces now, and they're
gonna have to look at this too. With removing banners, they're gonna have to look at that as well, long term. Anyway, with crit cap and stuff.
Yeah, so like I think like there's not too many, and yeah, I think like Radiance, Dragon Hunter are still like way over caps, but yeah, like I think the amount of classes that can do that is not as many as people think. People are like, oh, you just you just run one of the crit class caps, and it's like, well, which one is that? There's like two.
Yeah, like Renegade is the other one, right? That's like 1,000,000% crit chance. Like with
power renegade. That's a tough one.
Huge, big crit. Hey, look, they said they wanted to make it good, I think, at some point. So stay tuned for that.
Maybe it is top down after all.
At this point, I would wrap this up with just saying, talking a little bit about the strike mission rewards being unified, but everyone agrees it was a good thing, so it would be a very, very boring discussion, so we're skipping that. Directly on to one final thing, which is slightly unrelated, but I have to do it because my honor is at stake here before we wrap up, so I apologize for taking over this stream temporarily. But Linka made a comment here that it feels really bad because fractals haven't got anything for a long time. And a lot of the patches have been detrimental, particularly to the hardcore scene, specifically the condition damage change and not getting any content for a while. I actually agree with this. This is something I talked about yesterday on stream. It feels bad because it feels like after all this time of not getting anything, you kind of get the shaft for being a hardcore player. That is absolutely a valid concern to have, I think. The way I would address that is that, in my opinion, I think it would be an incorrect assertion to say that ArenaNet doesn't care about the hardcore community. They very obviously do. They're trying to make it work with strike mission challenge modes. This is unprecedented. I really want to highlight this. Guild Wars 2 is having an expansion that is going to launch with endgame content. That has never happened before, actually, with 4 strike missions coming out day 1. And then a few weeks after, as mentioned in this article, there will be challenge modes. That is unprecedented. So I definitely agree that it stings if you're a hardcore fractal player because strikes are not a one-to-one comparison. However, I do think that you are going to be, there is something there for the hardcore scene, and ArenaNet do actually care about those players. But I do think it is valid to say that ArenaNet probably, should have been a little careful with interacting with the hardcore scene, particularly seeing as they've been taking a bit of a beating recently. The fractal stuff, now the break bar changes, messing everything up, like everything becoming very, very condi shifted and a bit less kind of skillful, power getting nerfed, very, essentially getting nerfed by not being as good as condi. And also the build template swapping thing as well, massively fucked over the hardcore scene as well, seemingly out of nowhere. Yeah, 100%. Like, there have been some blows here, but I don't know. Like, Guild Wars 2 is not a game that has a very big hardcore audience, so it's a little bit difficult for ArenaNet to cater to them without also making a few compromises, right? That's basically my response to that. But I do think it is a 100% valid concern and a valid point that if you're a hardcore fractal player, you're a little bit upset by these changes because you have been very specifically targeted by this and haven't really gotten anything for a long time. That is a very fair thing. What do you guys think about that? Okay, final topic. There we go.
Actually, I had someone in my YouTube comments the other day. I made like a whole video and I was like talking about how I'm super excited for strike challenge modes. I was like, wow, actually getting like new raid-like bosses for the first time in like years. We're getting strikes at launch. Paul Fire didn't any of that shit. And then someone in my comments was like, I'm not coming back for this casual player expansion. And I was like, did you watch my video? I mean, I don't know. I don't like the change with the fractal CM coins. I don't like it. I think that looking at all these balance changes that they're doing, big changes, they're like basically like taking a huge hammer to the meta and like rebuilding it from scratch almost. Adding strikes, adding strike challenge modes. And we know that those strike challenge modes, we know that they started with the hard encounter and like stripped it down, which I like. It's not just that they took some strike balls and gave it some more HP.
Yeah.
So they're definitely trying, even if there are some missteps. Even though the hardcore scene is kind of small, I think we can definitely conclude that they're trying. And I'm quite excited to see what they've cooked up with in the past. How long has it been since Sunqua? Like 1.5 years or something? I'm excited.
A while.
I think it's gonna be good.
I'm excited too. I am really excited. They killed raids off a while ago. They've been dead forever. They're finally killing fractals, thank God. And now they just took both of them and smushed them together. And they were going to call them fraids, but that doesn't make any sense. So they came up with strikes. And there you go. That's your new content. You got strikes. Stop crying. Everything else is dead. You don't need to play it anymore. I mean, come on. You don't need gold. Anyways, this is Guild Wars 2. You're supposed to use your credit card. You guys are playing the game wrong from the beginning anyway. These guild MMs and stuff, they don't know how to play the game. You need a credit card.
Guild MM knows how to use a credit card.
Oh, does he?
Not necessarily in Guild Wars 2, but
yeah. So that's
life.
what I mean, though. He's not using it correctly in Guild Wars 2. You just swipe your way to win.
What is even happening right now?
Yeah,
Clearly, I'm joking. I am excited for strikes, and Fractals is fine, guys. It's still profitable. You'll still do it. You know, it's not really that big a deal. People are blowing it a little bit out of proportion, I think. And I'm looking forward to strikes. I want to see more of them. I'm hoping they can produce them a little bit faster than some of the other content that I've just mentioned. And I hope some of the CMs are really good. And like Teapot said, this for me is really big. My biggest complaint since Heart of Thorns, although we did have like raids almost right away with HOT, is that Guild Wars 2 didn't offer any like end game content at launch. And other games usually have dungeons or something that you can do after you hit the new max level or you gear up or whatever the case is at launch. And so Guild Wars 2 is finally going to have that. That makes me very happy. So I can't wait. I'm excited for that. Genuinely.
Hell yeah.
I agree. I think just having some instance content at launch is like really good because we've never had that. I used to think like, oh, they should just make some dungeons and put those in with expansions just so we have something at launch. But I'm pretty okay with this as well. And also like the CMs, they've shed like in the weeks after launch, right? That doesn't sound that long. So that's kind of hypes me up a little bit, and that is not going to be too much longer for those.
it means it'll be less than 2 months
Until they're all out, they're all released.
Is that the definition of weeks?
Because if it was more than 2, if it was 61 days, then they would have to say it's within months. of launch.
Right.
So weeks implies anywhere from 2 weeks to 7.9.
There's your deadline, ArenaNet.
Yep. Meet my expectations, or I'm uninstalling.
Yeah, is that your threat? That's where you draw the line.
Threat. Yep.
Char player 2 is gonna quit the game.
Nothing more Guild Wars 2 than like setting an expectation in your head and then being mad when ANet fails to live up to the expectation that you created and they didn't ever promise. Yep.
What if they add CC to Blade Sworn?
I mean, if it happens completely passively, that I guess I can live with it.
But if you have to give up DPS. You have to.
No, that's not happening.
Are you gonna uninstall the game if they do that?
No, I won't uninstall. I just won't use it.
I feel like I'm the only person who values their SSD, read-write cycles, because you guys are uninstalling all the freaking time and reinstalling on your devices. SSD manufacturers must love you guys. Jeez.
I mean, most of them probably are running like old school hard drives.
Yeah. Well, those $80 hard drives.
A little space though.
It does happen sometimes. There's a lot of uninstalling and reinstalling.
Look, just buy more space. Just do it.
Yeah, just leave the game installed. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's
You're coming back to it anyway.
You got to delete it
anyway. You'll save yourself. I don't know how long does it take to reinstall Guild Wars 2. I have no idea.
It's pretty big. The game is pretty fat now. It's like over 50
save yourself time. You're going to reinstall. Trust me. It's fine.
I never uninstall anything. I still have Arc Age installed and New Worlds and Black Desert. Everything still installs.
Okay, well, Lara's the exception. She uninstalls nothing.
Yeah.
Digital hoarder.
Gotta save my SSD write cycles. Exactly.
Exactly. You gotta save your hardware.
Okay. On that note, I think it is time to wrap up just about here. What a show, my friends. What a show indeed. I hope everyone on the stream enjoyed the discussion and isn't too big mad, right? If you're still big mad even a day afterwards, guys, please go ahead and put Maggies in the chat. It's one of my favorite Twitch emotes, and honestly, I'm going to use it. I'm going to abuse this opportunity to look at him. Look at him go. Look at him wiggle his arms. I love it. Okay, like people are going to put it just because they want to put the emote. I don't think they're actually that big mad, but they're just putting Maggies anyway. So it's hard to say. But anyway, it is time to outroduce my wonderful guests here. And first victim Okay, new blood, probably, you know, horribly traumatized after the first tea time be this intense and derailed. It is Lara. Tell us about yourself.
This was all going to be about the Jade Bots. That's what I thought was going to
Nice chill tea time, nice and relaxing.
It was fun though. Thank you for having me. This was a very fun podcast. I really liked that. It was good. Am I supposed to talk about my content now?
Yeah,
you can follow me
to sell out. It's time to go.
Twitch.tv/Serenity. And also YouTube.com/Serenity. I stream lots of Guild Wars too. I'm not as hardcore as some of the amazing people here. But I try my best, you know. No, this was good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yep.
Oh, follow me on Twitter.
Do it.
_Ira.
Look at those links in the chat. Look at them. Go, click on them right now. Yeah, the host bot. The host bot is popping right now. Look at it go. Yeah, whoa, crazy. But yes, click on all those links and follow and subscribe everywhere. Do it. Next up, also, bit of a returning gamer. It's MMO Inks.
Well, I'm glad Lara was here because I'm tired of fucking looking at Brazil. So thank God we had somebody else on the stream to look at.
Wow.
Whew, thank God.
This is my only contribution. Just like
no, it was great. It was great having you on Tea Time. Come back anytime.
Thank you.
It's fantastic. Yeah, I'm gonna be streaming again come EOD.
Ooh.
So that'll be coming up. Something I'm working on. I mean, everything's set up. I just have to stop being lazy and plug the numbers in to unlock my account. But yeah, gonna be streaming again, and that'll be basically what I do. I don't know that there's gonna be a whole lot of videos, but definitely gonna be streaming, and I'm hanging out a lot in like Teapot stream almost every day now, just having fun, just memeing around, having a joke, having a laugh.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, come hang out.
Do it. Okay, and finally, we have the hot take god. It's Nike. Awoken from his slumber just in time for tea time.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to follow me on things, you can go ahead and do that. It's pretty good. It's worth your value. It's good value.
The Twitter,
it costs you almost nothing to follow me on these things, but I'm not going to make you. And I'm not going to tell you what I do there.
Wow.
You just have to do it and follow and find out.
I like that. You're going for the mystery, the mysterious approach there to keep people guessing, keep people thinking about it.
I will promise that if you do follow me on various things, all of your dreams and goals and aspirations will come true.
Ooh.
You won't believe
and that's a guarantee.
What happens if you go to Nike's link.
It's like Zombocom. Anything is possible.
That's an old reference right there. I like that.
Yep. I love Zombocom.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means.
It's a very old internet meme.
Wow. It's like a 2004 meme.
Yeah. Like one of the original memes. So a website that would say.
Back then.
I think it had like some music on it, I think, and some voice lines that would play.
It's still up.
Yeah, it'd still be there. It just like says like, you know, anything is possible. Join us, stuff like that. It was a little weird.
And there was no way to join.
Yeah, you can't. Nothing you can do.
That's
but anyway,
my favorite kind of website.
Anyway, also, this stream, guys, you're already here. So while you're here, you might as well follow. If you aren't following, I mean, what are you doing? Okay, you got to do it now. Follow the stream, subscribe to the stream, follow me on Twitter, right? Do it. They're all my links there as well. They're all the host links again. Check them out. Links below the stream to everyone here and on the YouTube video if you're on YouTube. Make sure to follow and watch and engage on social media with everyone here. They are all amazing. Thank you so much, wonderful guests, for joining me here today. It was an excellent show. As usual, obviously. Yeah, I really appreciate it. I very much hope that everyone has enjoyed the stream. And like I said, please engage and check out all of these fantastic individuals in the Guild Wars 2 and internet space. But that is more or less going to be it for today. As usual, I'm going to be hanging around because I'm addicted to streaming and I cannot break free. I could uninstall the game, but I could never uninstall Twitch. So that's a little bit, you know, that's the way it is. You know, you got to be transparent about it. You really do. But yeah, that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the show. Have a wonderful time on whatever you go to next. Like I said, links, click them, follow them, go big. But that is it for now. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Goodbye, everyone, as I try and scramble to go to the away screen.